Hello there, ladies, gentlemen, unicorns. Welcome to Phil's Technical Difficulties. Also, again, in 2026, we're still off to a strong start with every stream. 100% of the streams now starting off with technical difficulties. Isn't this wonderful? Talking of things that are wonderful, of people even that are wonderful. Thanks everyone who is here, who partook in the pop quiz, and congratulations on. I'm looking at almost perfect scores. Frank, you got 94% correct. Lady Misleaf, 92. Kersey, 100%. I really should ask some harder and new questions, especially the Japan question is throwing none of you off anymore. So maybe I should try to mix things up a little. Hello everyone, how was your week? Yes, thank you, Chrissy Boo. See, it's good that we have the technical difficulties thing there. And Kersey, congratulations on 20 streams, on your streak of 20 streams that you've watched. That's the right way to put it. Thank you so much for being such a dedicated watcher of these streams, especially probably complicated by me not really keeping a steady rhythm because last week was Sunday and this week is also Sunday. So thank you everyone who still made it here despite the shake-up in scheduling. So, yeah, my week, if you're, thanks for asking how my week was. It was another stressful week as it was before. Like I said, I thought since most of my coworkers, well, not most, but a sizable portion of them is off through the January month, I thought, yeah, it's probably going to be a slow month. Yeah, turns out someone has to do the work. Hi, it's me. So I'm not complaining. It's just something that I thought, yeah, probably. I mean, if you think about it, it's not that hard to come to this conclusion. If no one's there, someone's got to do the work, probably the people who are still there. And yeah, that ended up on my table. Then again, I was working on some pretty neat projects. One is for Red Bull Racing, and which it's always fun when you work for such big channels, because in the first 2 days it had like 5 million views. And this is really something that all my videos in total, I probably never have the lifetime views of 5 million. So that's really something. Anyway, I'm here after a somewhat exhausting weekend, and I thought we do some little cozy things again. This case being a little bit more creative with cozy things. On one hand, I want to look at cozy horror. Yes, there is such a thing, and that is a horror-themed solitaire game that I've been following ever since the announcement. And they put out a demo, I think, the day before yesterday or so, and it's not very long, but it already gives a good impression of the game. And the cool thing about it is it tries to dive into this 90s nostalgia of finding a CD-ROM at a thrift store somewhere that no one's really heard of, and you play it, and yeah, it's a 1995 game that no one has ever heard of with the name Forbidden Solitaire. So, and afterwards I thought I tried to get my creative juices flowing and bumping the microphone again, as is the usual with me, by trying to do a chip tune. And also hopefully getting somewhere with it, because it's been a while since I did some chip music, and yeah, we will look into this. So what have I missed? The trick, says Frank, is probably to add more and very similar questions. Yeah, that is true, especially like Japanese composers. I think everyone's favorite question is names that if you're not initiated or not familiar with them, that look very much alike. And the other thing is, of course, impossible questions where just one number is the right answer. Frank says, I always get tripped up by the Bomberman / Rockman / Mega Man, whatever man. I know one of them is one of the others, and one of them is Eric and the Floaters, but I never remember which. Yeah, Eric and the Floaters, also a wonderful name. They're getting even for last year, says Lady Misleaf. The technical difficulties, you mean? Yes. Cozy horror, says Cursible, curious. And with that, I don't want to keep you guessing any longer. Just want to, yeah, one thing behind me last week, I think you remember, where I promised you there will be a wonderful little cupboard to store all my junk and even more random retro things. Yeah, maybe before we get into the solitaire thing, I have one more thing to show you, which again I already hinted at. But yeah, the problem behind me is IKEA, of course, because on one hand I ordered it, and the delivery date would have been Connie's birthday. So we didn't want to sit around and wait for the delivery the entire day. So I couldn't change the delivery date through the website or even through their customer service because, of course. But what you could do was just cancel the order and then place the same order just 2 days or 3 days later, and here we are. And this is what I did, and it said, yeah, the package would arrive on Friday, and lo and behold, as you can see behind me here, did it or did it not? So the website said it will arrive on Friday and the delivery person will contact you. Just be sure that you are at home in the time frame. What is the time frame? I might hear you asking. They said the time frame is 8 a.m. in the morning, between 8 a.m. and 10 p.m. So 10 in the evening. So yeah, it was a whopping, 16 hours that I had to stay home and get up early and even be up at 7 a.m. because to catch the call of the delivery person, provided they would arrive at 8 a.m. So long story short, the package arrived at 11. And it was sent not via some distribution network or something. It was really through the postal service. And our post guy didn't even ring. They just put it on the wall, and I could have saved myself getting up early and shaving off 4 precious hours of sleep. Anyway, so the package was there, and I thought, neat. It's big, it's bulky, it's heavy. Everything's got to be in there. Half of it is in there. So I'm still waiting on the other package that was about to arrive at the very same day. It did not, even until at 11 in the evening, the website still said, arriving today. And I thought, yeah, we will see about that. So at midnight sharp, I hit F5 and refreshed, and it said, arrival date unspecified. So yeah, there has been a change. So they changed the delivery platform, depot or something. So yeah, we will try next week. It's IKEA. So yeah, we will see when there is something behind me to behold. So that is the story of delivery things. Only half of it, exactly. I mean, the good thing is one half of it was there. Let me see if that works again. Yes, it works. So it should follow me, the camera. Yes. And camera, can you still follow me? No, you cannot. So, ta-da, this little thing arrived, which will be the tripod for the blue light. So at least one part of it was there. I love it when the camera tracking works for once. And the other thing that I got myself, I think I've already mentioned it before, is a cutting machine. It's this one. Oh, poor camera. Yeah, I place it here where the unicorns usually sit. Hey, my eyes are up here. Thank you for enjoying my t-shirt. Technology, everyone. It's good when it's working, but don't count on it working. So what I'm trying to do now is to bridge the time until the Insta360 camera controller boots up. No, I do not want to update. Thank you very much. All I want to switch is to this view. Here we are again. So yeah, the cutting machine, what is it? Essentially, it's a cutting machine. So it's a bit like a plotter. It just has this little, I don't know what you say, the slider or something, the jog that goes up and down, and it can scroll something that you place on a mat back and forth. If you place a knife on there, it can do cutouts. If you place a pencil there, it can trace things. So you can even engrave things with it. So I'm very much looking forward to this crafty goodness, which should be housed in this cupboard that is not there yet. So this is Creative Phil 2026 in the making. And again, because everything that was I usually was behind me is right here. So this is why the unicorns sit now in the shelf behind me for now. So Crycat says, Lady Misleaf, is this the way I pronounce it correctly? This maybe you can see it a little bit better. Yeah, it's the Crycat Cricu Joy Extra. And yeah, I want to do this for crafting projects and the long promised Patreon exclusive stickers. So I'm going to print them out here and then just stick them into an envelope again, which probably will be much cheaper than having Patreon fulfill it after taking their cut. Pun intended. Frank says, I suspect they may have intended a pun on cricket. Oh, cricket. That makes absolutely sense, because I was always, does it make you cry when you cut yourself? Why is it called like that? Cricket. Weirdly, it makes more sense than what I came up with or intended or thought they were intending with the name. Thank you, Frank. Yeah, so that's it for creative projects from me for now. Again, I'm still not fully finished with my LTO thing, with my annual backup. Again, work has been holding me up this week. And the other thing is I had to reset my system because for some reason I had weird crashes. Like my Explorer background, when the Explorer just crashes, you see a pop-up of one or two command line windows, terminal windows, and the Explorer is right there. And it takes less than a second. And this is what happened like twice or three times an hour. Sometimes I had weird crashes of Firefox where tabs would just crash if they were sitting around for like 5 minutes or something, and I was very concerned about something on my system going wrong. So I did a full reset, and so far things have been running rather smoothly. So I think something with my system has been acting up. So the good thing is it was not the RAM, because this was also something that I've expected, where memory has gone bad by, I don't know, some cosmic particle when you win the negative lottery and it just hits your hardware and then flips some bits, or it damages them permanently. So I had like two different memory testers do test runs all over my RAM, and thank goodness the RAMs apparently seems to be intact. So my other hunch is that perhaps my Intel CPU might be a little bit damaged, because it was one of those, the 14900. It was like 1.5 years, 2 years ago when it came out, and I was one of the early adopters of it. So maybe with the first run of any kind of hardware, usually there are problems. So again, hopefully these things have been sorted out by now, because you cannot afford to buy a computer these days. Right. So let's get, I wanted to say let's get cozy, but also let's get horrified, but perhaps something in between. So I just try to switch the category to Forbidden Solitaire. And yes, it has already been added as a category. So I hope you're in the mood for some horrific card play. So the game is, oh, beautiful. It's already working. From Grey Alien Games. So that's Jake Burkett, and I think half of his family, or the entire family, is working on it. And for this one, he's working with Night Signal Entertainment, which I think is just one guy in Utah. And together they're using a Blitz Basic as the foundation. I think James Burkett has been using Blitz Basic for decades now to make his Solitaire games. I think there was Regency Solitaire before, and some pirate-themed Solitaires. It was all very Victorian in theme, but this time they went into the horror and slightly retro inspired genre, and for some reason this has been a perfect fit. I mean, if you look at this now, this is a Windows-ish background, but that is already the game. So we have here our settings, messages, and Forbidden Solitaire, and we can even subscribe to the newsletter. And down here we have the beta build because we're playing the demo right now. And what I also like is, yes, this is the correct time right now. So one thing is that I want to switch over to full screen. There we go. And we are playing as Will Roberta. And I think when we start the game, a new game, new settings, because I already played this one. Okay, reset game, and then we can start again. Because I think, right, it starts here that Emily Roberta, apparently our spouse, is messaging us. So, hey, remember that weird, violent card game that mom's on television and then demanded we never play? Also, apparently they're siblings then. Well, guess what? I just found it while thrifting. I'm gonna try installing it when I get home. Wish me luck. Oh, and naturally, don't tell mom. So apparently, maybe it's not. I assumed it was a husband and wife, but apparently it's just siblings. Because also we're playing it at 2019, so this is already somewhat in the past. Lady Misleaf said, is the Intel that was literally burning out? Yeah, exactly, it was that one. So the first thing that I did after I installed it was to get into the BIOS and make absolutely sure that I followed whatever thing was floating around on Reddit, that you undervolt it and limit any kind of boost, just disable this so that it would not get overly hot. And I throttled it even down a little bit so that the heat would never exceed, like, I think the hottest that I have it is 90 degrees centigrade. So 100 degrees centigrade is boiling water, so it's slightly below that, and I hardly reach it ever with my cooling solution. But it took a time with the curves of my fans to get adjusted just right so that this didn't happen. So, and then once I had this sorted out, everyone that I asked was assuring me, yes, nothing can happen now. But again, you never know. Like I said, with first run hardware and CPUs especially, maybe there's something wrong. Frank says, I put pictures of the things I got yesterday on Discord. Oh, I haven't looked at it, but I will. Thank you so much for sharing, Frank. Did you get something nice for you? So this is what we wrote Emily, and they say, oh my god, no way. You found a copy of Forbidden Solitaire. I remember wanting to play it as a kid so bad. You gotta let me borrow it after you're done with it. Extremely jealous right now. So yeah, this was our message. So let's start then. Forbidden Solitaire. By the way, these animations are GIFs or GIFs, however you want to pronounce them. And I think James Burkett had... Oh.
But there is a secret to defeating death. Somewhere beyond Blood Rock Mountain and through the deadly valleys of Gravewood, there it lies. Known only by legend as the Forbidden Dungeon, it is said that any soul daring enough to plunge its depths may unlock the secret to immortality in the heart of its deepest chamber. The question is, how badly do you wish to live forever?
Isn't this nice? And yeah, what I wanted to say is that the in-game videos here are GIF files. And James Burkett on his blog, I think he even posted how he decodes the GIF files for full screen display without lagging behind and also synchronizing it with audio, which again has been quite a task. Frank said, I decided a few weeks ago that I want to get back into model trains. Oh, that's neat. And I needed some very important scenery items that somehow nobody sells off the shelf. Yeah, I think that's train sets, and it's for many people what I've heard, it's not so much about the trains. I mean, of course it's also about the trains, but where you can really lose yourself is just the miniatures and making sure this entire environment and the little towns and everything is down to the last, I don't know, rivet on a post box somewhere, mailbox. Kersey says fun. Lady Misleaf says very retro animation look. Yeah, and also the music and sound. I feel has this 90s feel. I think is this a Korg M1 synth or something along those lines? Because again, you wouldn't use I don't know, a trip hop. Well, perhaps in the 90s, probably you would already start using trip hop beats or something. But overall, it feels very, very well. I mean, even the presentation here, it's now 4:3, as you can see. So I like things like this. And there, of course, if I zoom in, you can see, yeah, lots of beautiful dithering going on here everywhere. Even here in the shadows, just this dithering shadow. Very, very nice. Oh, Frank says, it's the lot. Of course, it's everything. You approach the steps of the forbidden dungeon as it looms over you, waiting for its next victim to willingly enter its labyrinthian jaws. Step by cautious step, you approach the entrance. As you reach out to open the old wooden door, you find it pulls back against you, locked for the betterment of man's kingdom. Not for long. And here we start with the game proper. So you play it as the game, as the tutorial tells you. By the way, again, I love the attention to details. Look, there are hands holding here the label. So the tutorial says you must clear all the cards on the levels to proceed. So the basics is to click on a card one number higher or lower than the card at the bottom of the screen. And essentially that's it. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 4. There we go. Draw a stock card. There are no more playable cards, so you need to draw a new card from the stockpile. So an ace number 1 can go on a king and vice versa. So ace, king, or we could just go to 2 from an ace. So this is where it wraps around. So anything that we can do here, yes, king, queen, jack, 10, 9, and you started a combo by playing 6 cards in a row. Keep combos going to generate mana. Click end combo when you need to draw a new card. So here we are getting mana, and apparently we have mana 2 out of 40. And here it lists our combo. So 9, 10, and this is the end of our combo. So with every card that we draw, we replenish 1 mana point. So 8, 7, 6, 7, and well, cannot do anything with 5. So, but now we can, and now we cleared this level. And essentially that's the game at a very basics, but of course the game tries to vary this quite a bit. You will see when we get there. Finally, the door gives way to your sorcery. You take your first step within, blinded by the darkness. By the way, I really like what the game did there with this glitch, because also the audio was glitching and repeating like this half second over and over again. Again, I find these little touches very, very nice. With a spark, you light your fingers like a torch, illuminating the room with a dim light. A dark maze of stone surrounds you. In the distance, you can hear a faint groan. You walk towards the source of the agony and soon see before you a poor crying soul impaled on a bloody spear. Surely you can spare a moment to free them from their misery. With a slight struggle, you pull the spear from their belly and they collapse onto the floor. As you turn to leave, you suddenly feel a horrible pain in your foot. And it eats our foot! You look down and see this agonized creature has hungrily sunken its teeth into your ankle. You realize with horror this is no man you have freed, but a cannibalistic beast. And here we are in a battle. So, and you see here, instead of combo, it says here DMG or damage, and there on the, oh yeah, I think the tutorial will explain it. So clear cards to increase your damage, then click end turn. Hover over the enemy's next action for details. Fight! So here is a bite, a painful bite that causes 1 damage. So in that case, it's a little bit like Hearthstone or Magic, where we have 10 health and our enemy has 12 20 health. So, and with each combo that we make, the damage increases by 1. And apparently, Emily messages us. Okay, you've reawakened my obsession with this game. I'm gonna do some digging when I get home. If I'm lucky, maybe I'll find it on an abandonware site or something. I blame you for any/all digital crimes I may or may not commit this evening. And again, I like it that the game really stops while we are getting these messages. So, Little Nightmares all over again, says Lady Miss Lee. Oh god, Little Nightmares. Yeah, there's the new one. What's it called? Again, where you have these 2 kids. I've seen this on a stream just this Thursday. Anyway, yeah, from the Little Nightmare makers. Yeah, people from the European North are weird in just the best way. So, okay, let's see if we can get a combo ready. So if I go to 6, then we need another 7 or 4, or I can... You know what? I just hope if I uncover this one, maybe there is some card underneath that I can use, but no, I cannot. End turn. So 1 and 1. So we're at health 9 out of 10 now. Little Nightmares 2, no. It's from the people who made Little Nightmares, but I think they formed a new studio or something. Darn it. I really have to look it up because, again, it's very much in spirit of Little Nightmares. And I think there's a demo out. If I can... If I can just recall what it was called. You know what? I will do some digging afterwards. But again, it feels very much like Little Nightmares and Limbo and Inside, where it's just like kids in a super rendered and presented atmospheric world, and it's just super weird. Okay, so 10. Jack, Queen. Can I get a king? No, but we can make 2 damage. Okay, 9. Okay, so apparently they're resting now, so we can build up perhaps something. 9, 8, still nothing. Okay, with the next thing they will bite us again. So 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, ace, king. Should we go with queen or the ace again? Let's go with queen, because I want to get to these cards down here. And now we do 7 damage. Bam, that's nice. Okay, good. We got 12 mana. So 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. Should we go 7 again and then hope there's an 8? Okay, there is not an 8. Okay, 4 HP and 8. I think we got this. 8, 9. Yeah. 8, 7. Okay, 7 health points. The enemy got 2 health points. I think that's possible. And we can also refresh the tableau of cards as well. And then what we have, attack. So the idea is to first get as many cards as we can, and then we can here refresh as the game just told us, which we don't need because we already have our victory here. You stand over the creature's unrecognizable corpse, having overcome the first of the forbidden dungeon's many dangerous trials. Over here, you hear a strange voice coming from a nearby wall. Turning around, you see an eye peering out from behind a missing brick. I can help you. Very cautiously, you approach the voice. And I love this little eyeball that is following my mouse. Isn't this cute? I cannot click it, but this is the shop, everyone. This is the shop, and we can upgrade. So I got 90 gold. And what is this? Well, we can temporalite. To invest in temporalite, which means that we can undo 1 action per hand for 60. Or we can use the Bloodstone that increases our health by 10, but it costs 100 and we have 90 available. So I think we should invest into this. And when we buy something like this, it's a little bit harsh because we just implant it into our hand, into our, I want to say, hairy hand. Gathering your strength, you stumble back into the darkness. Step by step, you walk down the dungeon's many cold stone halls. Faint torchlight guiding you, or perhaps deceiving you. You're turning into Thanos. Indeed I am. It's just not a gauntlet, it's just a hand. You turn around, not recognizing the path you took. Where are you? You hear groaning in the distance. You must find the way forward with haste. So, search the dungeon is our goal here. And when we play, it says, find the hidden secret and clear all the cards to continue your quest. And what do we have here? Well, a key. And with the key, we can probably use it here with the lock. And behind the cards here, there is the secret to uncover. So, let's do this then. Oh, Emily writes us, damn, surprisingly no luck on any of the pirate sites. Seems like some parent groups made it their mission to destroy as many copies as possible, so it's quite rare now. The controversy around this game seems to have been generally bonkers. I think I found the news story that must have freaked mom out. Video attachment. Isn't this nice?
A group of demonstrators gathered outside the Heartblade Interactive offices this morning in protest of a controversial new video game called Forbidden Solitaire. The game, a dark fantasy adaptation of the classic game Solitaire, recently found its way to stores and quickly drew criticism from parent groups for its violent content. The game includes graphic scenes involving eye gouging, impalement, bloody rituals, and more.
There's no reason for it to be this violent. It's fucking Solitaire!
The software company responsible for the game, Heartblade Interactive, has declined to comment in the wake of the controversy. The company's founder is former fantasy author Lucas B. Hart, who has recently been working to keep the game from being banned in several countries, including Germany, Brazil, and
Spain, I would assume. Isn't this nice? And it's, I mean, there's no reason for this to be this violent. It's still fucking Solitaire. I love this line. So what do we have here? Mana card. Click on this to gain some bonus mana. Spain or Spade? That's the question. Charming indeed, Kersey. And again, if you zoom in, you can see really the harsh, hard pixels, the dithering, the palletized background, the 90s mouse cursor there. I think overall the presentation is really spot on. So of course I enjoy this. So 5, what do we have? Can we do anything here? No, we cannot. 8, 9, 10, Jack, 10, Jack, 10. And now we have a joker. Play this wildcard at any time, then place any card on top of it. So we could use it now and say, okay, this was our 9, 8, 7, 6. Well, we got a combo of 9. I think that's quite good. So ace, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And the secret was revealed. Now clear the remaining cards to continue your quest. Frank says, this doesn't necessarily feel like my kind of game. Okay, is it too gruesome for you then? If you want something similar in terms of game mechanics, but something that is less horror-y, please look into what was it called? Regency Solitaire, if you're more into this Victorian Pride and Prejudice like thing, because I've heard again that it has great mechanics and there's a lot of variety in rather simple solitaire mechanics there, and of course a story on top. So maybe that might be something for you then. Lady Miss Liv says, it's making me want to check out Regency Solitaire though. Exactly, that's the thing. Well, not too gruesome yet, but I'm just never after gruesome at all. Okay, yeah, this makes sense. I mean, it tries to get into this very campy, on the nose horror. I think, yeah, that's for sure. Okay, king, queen, jack, queen, and we got, I mean, I don't know what we can do with our mana, but maybe it will tell us at some point. And we can undo the last action. So ace, no. Okay, 5, 4, 3 that we can work with. 8, 9, 9, 2, 5, 6, and we need a 10. Okay, your mana is fully charged. Click the orb to unleash a mana storm. All right, that's it. And the mana storm destroys up to 3 random playable cards, which means we're finished with this level. Cursey says, yeah, if it gets too gory, I'll have to look away. I don't think it will get, at least in the demo, there won't be any jump scares that I know of, at least the first time around I played it. And by the way, if you don't like the jump scares, yeah, I can show you a setting. Finally, you discover a vital clue towards your progress. You come across a suspicious seam in a wall. A hidden door, perhaps? Suddenly, the groans grow louder, and you turn around to see a hideous sight. The very corpse you left behind, now a shambling abomination. Through a miracle of the darkest forces, it still lives. As the groaning horror lurches toward you, you pray this encounter will be its last. So, here in the menu, there are settings for jump scares and visual glitches in case you want to turn these off. And personally, I'm really not a fan of jump scares. I just was curious what kind of jump cursey booths are in this game. But at least in the demo, there aren't any, so I just left it on. But I don't think you can disable the blood. But for now, I mean, the blood is, from what I've seen, mostly very early 3D studio-like blobs in bright red. Okay, and as you can see here, the playing field is quite different from the usual Solitaire, so it's not always the regular stacks of cards. In this case, it looks like maybe a rib cage or a boat or something. Then later on there are circles, and it's a bit like with Mahjong. You have to clear the cards on top to be able to access the cards that are underneath. So there is a sort of strategy, or at least tactical play to it. Oh, thank you for redeeming Unicorn, Cursey. And Cursey says, I'll jump at the opportunity to click the hydrate button. And good for you to do this. And I just realized that I constantly keep moving out of the camera frame. Why did I position it like that? Weird. Well, I think... Weird. I don't know what happened. Probably I moved the camera a little bit too far to the side. So if I'm here, yeah, that weirdly that's much better. Cheers. So as for the gruesomeness there of the demo, I don't think it will. There will be one graphic image later on, but that is very clearly photoshopped. So hopefully it's not getting too gruesome, and then we will do something else. Right, so I can now choose to either fight or visit the shop. And what is the shop? Well, it's our friendly face, I wanted to say, but it's just the eyeball. It's just the eyeball. But what is there for us to buy? Well, shuffle. And I think, yeah, the shuffle for 30 is always helpful. And the other bloodstone for health we still cannot afford, but I think for now we should be fine. I mean, our enemy got 20 health, we got 10, but we can refresh the tableau, we can undo an action, and we can even, after 40 mana, we can unleash a mana storm, so hopefully we should be fine. So the enemy, again, is now a bit more powerful than before, so a brutal swipe that deals 3 damage. So we should really make sure or try to get their health points down as fast as we can. So this is a skull card to deal instant piercing damage. Piercing means if the enemy has some sort of armor, then it will go right through it. Then we get a wild joker, which again is helpful. So we can go 9. Let's go with 8, 9, 8, 9, 8. Get some more mana. And you know what? I will use the Joker now and go for Jack, Queen, Jack. And I think for now that's it. So we can deal 7 damage, which I think is kind of good. Okay, Queen, Jack. Yeah, that's all that we got. But we can Shuffle at some point. I don't know why we're not able to do this right now, but there must be a reason for it. I think it has to do with mana. So 4, 3 damage, and we got a defense card to gain some temporary defense. So the next thing is bite, and we're safe against getting bitten. So again, this should be good. So 2 ace. And then, okay, so the shuffle is, of course, we need to uncover the card. So there's a chance that the card will be a shuffle in case we need it. So ace, 2, 3. Let's go 2, ace, king, queen. And we can even refresh, jack, 10. And we deal 11 damage now. So this has been quite well. So this is the most gruesome, I think, that you would see are just those blobs in. When you count them, it's like 4 different shades of red. The creature lies unflinching before you, reduced to nothing but bones and sinew. Sinew? Sinew, I think. You redirect your attention back towards the hidden door. There has to be a mechanism somewhere to open this. You just need to find it. And we got another new card. Oh, look at us. We got 100 points, which means we can finally afford the Bloodstone. That also goes right into our hand. So let us play. Here is a suit lock. To unlock this suit lock, play matching suit cards until the counter reaches 0. So in this case, it's diamonds for us. So 5, 6, and that's it for now. Oh! Emily found some info in the studio that made it Heartblade Interactive. They claim the game actually sold pretty well thanks to the controversy, but the studio shut down shortly after. Weird. I'm gonna do some more digging. This is getting interesting. So again, I really like that there's this narrative on top of everything. And what I also like is that apparently in this world, the game is programmed pretty well because it's running apparently a 1995 game is running inside Windows XP or Windows Vista. And it has absolutely no problem when another program steals its focus and runs on top of it and then continues right where it was. Solid programming, I say. So what can we do with 6? Not a lot. With 2, well, yeah, I think king, ace, probably, yeah, wrong call. 4, wrong call. 2, 8, 7, 6, 4, 4 again, 3, no, king, queen, jack, and see, now we've unlocked this pile of cards. 10, 9, 8. Oh, this is fun. 7, 8, 9, 10. Jack, there we go. Should we go queen and hope there's a king somewhere? No, there is not. But let's end our combo. 9, 10. Because apparently this is the secret that we need to unlock. Because it's being able to handle stolen focus, that's how you know this is fiction. Indeed it is. Yeah, alt-tabbing out of a game, I think, especially in the early days, I feel like that 80, if not 90% of the games could not handle this. If their focus was stolen, they said, okay, so clearly you're not interested in me. You know what? I might as well crash. And by the way, of course, take all your progress with it, because I can. 9, okay. 10, 7. The good thing is, even when we just pick another card or uncover another card, we get 1 mana point. So at some point we reach 40 and then we can just eliminate 3 random cards. But now we can do something more, that is 7, 6, 7, well, 5. That's it. 8, 7, 2, ace, 2, 3. I mean, we can shuffle the playing cards, but this probably won't help us. So the only criticism that I would have is that in some cases, essentially you just have to wait for the right moment of luck to strike. So I feel like that you can only pick cards that are one or more, one less or one more than what is down here. Maybe this is a little bit limiting, but then again, all I played is just a demo. Frank says, I still feel nervous when I start a 3D game if there's one running in the background. You see, I think this fear has been instilled in us from games that were programmed so close to the metal that they really needed all the focus the system could give them. And yeah, it's nowadays still, I think when I have, for example, I have Resolve open for doing color grading, which also uses a lot of GPU memory, especially when rendering. So I'm also very hesitant to start a game right on top of it, even if it's just a 2D game, because it still will utilize the GPU maybe for rendering. And again, with two programs that compete for the graphics memory, yeah, you don't want to get into the middle. At last you find it beneath the dust and rubble of a dark cobwebbed corner, a switch. You depress it, and with a loud roar, you hear the hidden doorway open. As the stone door slowly grinds open before you, rocky pale debris begins to spill outward. As the door opens fully, it reveals its horror. A foul, salt-like stench fills the air. Your eyes behold the passageway, filled to the brim with the calcified remains of countless corpses. To discover what's at the end of this chamber, you fear you have to disturb them. So let's disturb the corpses. Kirsty says, and don't dare to use up your RAM and start swap. Oh god. Yeah, that's another thing you don't want to get into. So we got something new in the store. What is this? The Quasi Crystal. Combos start after a run of 5 cards instead of 6. And the Stormy Quartz boosts the power of mana cards. You know what? I will use this, hopefully. Or how much does it cost? Well, 80. Maybe we can make use of this. Okay, let's play. Get some mana cards. Got a Joker there. Lady Miss Leaf says, I gotta get going. Thanks for the stream. Thank you for dropping by, Lady Miss Leaf. Hope you have a wonderful week and see you next Saturday. And apparently, even Emily is messaging us right now. So thank you so much, Lady Miss Leaf. And yeah, see you around. So Emily writes, found this old magazine review of the game. Apparently it was so buggy they couldn't even finish it. So beware of bugs, I guess. Image attachment. And again, I love this, that it really looks like some crummy JPEG scan of an old review. Danger lurks around every corner, and they give it a Romero's rating 4 out of 10. And they said, perhaps Forbidden Solitaire should have stayed forbidden from store shelves after all. So the game was fighting itself at every turn whenever it would show up. So some late game enemy that didn't seem like it was meant to appear yet. So there is apparently something inside the game that wants out, I fear. So with this new knowledge, let's see if we can continue. But we have the Mana Storm to destroy up to 3 random cards, which did not help a lot. But it sure was nice. 2, 3, 10. Jack. Nope. 5, 6, 7, 8. And we can shuffle the playing field cards, which might be a good idea. Just to see what else is around. And now we can 8, 9, 10. Oh, this did us some good. 6, 7, 2, no, ace. I think, yeah, we need a spades suit, so either will do fine. Okay, but then nothing really helps us there. Okay, queen, jack, 10. Ooh, there are the keys for these cards, and we revealed the secret. So again, we can try our luck and shuffle. It doesn't cost us anything apart from 1 shuffle card. So there we get 10. Yeah. Oh, I can now use the undo button because I was a little bit too fast. Queen, king. 3, 2. Oh, you know what? We still have here the Joker. 5, 4. And there we unearthed the chamber. Salty dust powders your lungs as you finally move the last bit of the bony debris out of your way, revealing a clear path at last through the hidden passage. You gather your strength and step forward into the darkness. Thank you, Automated Unicorn. As you march your way through the shadowed hall, you hear your footsteps echo. You stop in place, but the footsteps continue. It's just as you feared. You're being followed. Turning around, you witness a grotesque horror limping its way towards you. The figure illuminates as it drags itself into your faint light. You recognize its horrible, mangled visage. It's still alive. How could it still be living? So, we get permanent defense, or our enemy get permanent defense. This enemy will always block some of your basic attack damage. Well then, let's fight! And also the music says, now it's on. So ace, 2, 3, 4, 5. Damage, damage. And then let's shuffle. Maybe we can increase our damage. 5. No, we can't. Let's try this once again. 5. Oh, look at this. 4, 3, 2. Damage 7. That's quite good. So 8, 9. So because this was deflected, we need more than one combo, but yeah, it doesn't look good for us right now. Okay, 10. Jack, and then hope we get an 8, 7, 8, 6, 5, something along those lines. Okay, this could work. 8, 7, 6. Should we go with 7 or 5? Let's go with 5. I mean, we got 16 health. And our enemy got 8, so this shouldn't be too much of a problem. Let's go with queen, king, queen, king. Oh, yeah, this does not work. 2, 3, 8, 9. Ah, darn it. So we need a new tableau. 5, 6. 4, 3, 2. That's kind of good actually. 5, 6, 5, 6, 7, 6. And our mana is also full. And also the mana hurts, the mana strike hurts our enemy. And we unlocked Mystic Missile to remove a targeted playable card. Relentless, you continue your assault on the poor soul until it has broken into hundreds of bony, shattered pieces across the dark hall. As you begin to make your way into the dungeon, you hear a rattling sound as the shattered remains begin to shiver and the blood begins to rise. A pooling red whirlwind forms in front of you as hundreds of disparate bones, meat and gristle from throughout the dark hall begin to assemble. You run down the hall as fast as your feet can carry you. An unholy shriek echoes through the chamber. Your heart leaps with joy as you witness a familiar sight approach. A door. The shriek grows louder. With swiftness, you attempt to pull it open, only for it to pull back against you. The door is locked. You turn around and witness a horrific sight. A hulking, malformed effigy of bones and tissue rampaging towards you. And here we are with a permanent defense of 2 and whatever this thing is. So a hideous curse that afflicts cards and reduces your health by 5. Well, let's see what the shop has to offer. Mana cards are boosted, sure, maybe this helps. So, let's fight. 3, 4, 5. Okay, 4 again. 5, 6, and we got a combo. So we can remove 1 playable card. Let's remove this one. But I thought maybe there was a 7 underneath there, or even a 5. But I think damage of 5 is kind of good. Oh dear, what happened here? This card is cursed, and it needs to be played twice, okay, to be removed. So we got a Jack, 10, Jack, and nothing else. Queen, Jack. Oh, twice the mana, that's good. But still nothing else that we can take. Okay, we got a king, ace, 2, ace, king. Oh, we could have used the... Nah, darn it. 4, 3, 2. And now we would have needed another. Okay, 9, 8, 7. Okay, this is getting a bit problematic. King, you know what? Let's get a new tableau. Oh dear, that hurt. Our health is at 8 now. And many cards here were cursed. Okay, 9, 10, Jack. Let's go with, well, that's a cursed card. Let's go with 10 again. Yeah, this helps a little. 3, 2. Ah, darn it. 9, 8. 9, 8. Nervous. Yeah, same here. This was easier the first time around that I played it, if I recall correctly. Okay, you know what? Let's shuffle the cards and see what else we get here. Okay, 8, 7. Can I get a 6? No. Can I get another 8? No. Okay, now I got a 6. 5, 4, 3, 4. And let's take out this one. Okay, this was not too bad. So the next is a swipe that deals 3 damage. We got 1 defense. So, oh, it's 4, 5. Now we get a combo going for what it's worth. But yeah, that's our combo. Okay, ace. King. Okay, our health is down to 1. Okay, this is getting a bit stressful. 7, 8, 7. I mean, they're resting now, so maybe that helps. Queen, Jack, Queen, defense, damage. Okay, this wasn't too bad. But they, of course, deflect 2 of our combos. So there is not a lot that I can take right now. Okay. 10. Okay, so the next going to be a swipe for 3 damage. We cannot afford 3 damage. So we have to make now 9 damage, and I don't think we can. 7. Yeah, I think that's all that we can do. Game over. Okay, the first time that I played it, apparently I was just lucky. Okay, let's retry this. Let's retry our luck. Yeah, let's fight. Okay, queen, defense. Let's see what's underneath there. Jack, 10, 9. Okay, this is not too bad for now. Okay, I thought maybe there could have been an 8 underneath. Anyway. 7, 6, 7, 6. Ace, 2, 3, 2. Okay, I think things are looking a little bit better than last time with this fight. 4, 5, 4. Okay, this is good. 3, 2, and turn. Let's have a new tableau. Okay, our mana is looking good. So I think we got this. I think we got this. Hopefully. Ace 2, 3, 4. Yeah, that's it. Still 1 damage. Maybe I spoke too soon. Okay, let's remove one of the cursed cards. Or should be 8, 9, 10, 9. 10. And what's underneath the 4? Oh, still the 4. Okay. 8, 7, 6. Is there a 5? No. 3, 4. Yeah, there is not a lot of tactics that we can employ here. Queen, Jack, Queen. A kingdom for a king. There the king is. King. Ace. 2, ace. 2, ace. Not too bad, not too bad. Okay, 4 versus 9 health. This is possible, I think. And we can remove 1 card that we do not need or want. But yeah, this also did not help. This damage is going to be deflected. And yeah, another tough one, right? 4, 3. Yeah, there's not a lot that I can do. 6, 5. Oh, I can unleash the mana storm, so hopefully. Oh, that was close. That was close, but we made it. There must be a way to stop this terror for good. As the creature stands dazed, weakened by your assault, you plunge your hand into its swirling, bloody core. Suddenly you feel a pulse. You grip and tear from the beast. You inspect your hand to find a bloody, beating heart. What unholy magic drives its rhythm? The creature stirs. You better start your investigation with haste. And the background now it has changed here to this bloody red. So what can we buy here in the shop? We can get the Meteor Shower that removes targeted playable card and up to 2 more beneath it. But yeah, we cannot afford this just yet. Remove all duplicate playable cards with the same value, also unaffordable, but the boost of defense cards. You know what? Defense is always good. And turns over 20% of face down cards at start of each hand. Okay, that's good. Let's try this. 5, 6. Yeah. 9. Holy shit, says Emily. Okay, I think I may know why the studio shut down after launch. I found a police report that was filed at the studio just before the game came out. Why wasn't this the controversy? They must have kept this quiet. In short, a developer killed herself in the studio. Here's the report I found. Be warned, it's quite disturbing image attachment. So yeah, if you're not into graphic Photoshop mutilation, please look away for the next couple of seconds. So this is the police report of the incident report. Apparently Shannon Sierra, a date of birth 4th of 4th 16, was killed, and apparently with 2 daggers that were stuck in her eyes. Heartblade Interactive LLC summary, Sunday, March 5th, 1995. A break-in was reported at 22:21. When Redacted arrived at the scene, victim was found dead in the office of Redacted, laying near a compact disc. Victim found with 2 identical daggers plunged in her eye sockets. Room was locked and security cameras confirmed wounds were self-inflicted. No additional evidence found. And that was the demo of Forbidden Solitaire, and I'm weirdly hooked. It feels a little bit like a hidden object game in the sense of the gameplay, the mechanics aren't that terribly demanding, and you play it just to see what is coming next. So it's a little bit like, in the sense of an adventure game where you unlock things to just see the narrative, the story progress. So for me, again, after this, I thought, you know what, gonna wishlist it. I mean, it's already on my wishlist, but if you like this kind of game, maybe you also want to see what they came up with. But I'm very much looking forward to a fourth wall thing, a bit like The Ring, where everyone who plays this game is dead within 1 week or something, and you have to finish the game before this happens, or something along those lines. So interesting for sure, says Cursiboo. Yeah, and for me it was really this 90s game nostalgia, because just looking at 3 colored dithered backgrounds, it's really, it hits home, the nostalgia for me. Right, so, and the other thing, by the way, cheers everyone, that I wanted to try, like I said, was to try my hand at Chipmusic again. And since I'm also planning maybe this year to give a talk on the topic of chip music, and maybe do some live chip music as well at the Game Dev Days in autumn, or whenever it will be this year. Hopefully there won't be. Yeah, this is my dry run of seeing if I can explain what I'm making or what I'm doing. So if you're here for that, let me clear the category Forbidden Solitaire and change it for making a chip tune. And what is this category? Music? Is this a category? Yeah, I think it is music is a category. So what will I use to make chip music? Do I have everything in mind? No, I do not. The only thing that I know is that I'll be using Furnace, and that you can hopefully follow along. Chip tunes. There we go. Indeed. Is this a chip? Well, it's a tortilla chip, right? So yeah, definitely counts. So I switch my screen resolution to something 4K-ish. Keep changes, yes, but as well I will change or increase, where am I? Here I am, the display scale to something obnoxious like 300%. Oh, that's huge, but hopefully you can now see much better what is going on here on my screen. So yeah, this is a tracker, as maybe some of you know, and a tracker is nothing else. Essentially, it feels like a timeline for notes or music. But this time, the timeline is not going from left to right, but it's going from top to bottom. So, and essentially, I just enter notes there for each of the instruments that I have. In this case, I'm targeting an NES system. So we have 2 pulse channels, 1 triangle, 1 noise channel, and 1 channel to play digital samples. I think it's like 4-bit or 3-bit or 5-bit or something low-bit samples that we can also play. But the downside of having samples playback is that they take up precious memory. And it's the consensus is, oh, look at this. This is the chat. Wow, that's huge. The consensus is, well, if there's a consensus, if you can, you could use maybe a snare drum as a digital sample, but it's much better if you somehow can approximate a snare drum sound effect with something like noise. So 320 by 200, and you like it, says Frank. Indeed, and then I just have to stretch it a little bit. Frank says 4K resolution is not compatible with chiptunes, surely. Again, if I just zoom in wide enough, then the only upside that I have over 320 by 200 in this case is I got super sharp text now because it's 4K, but really that's zoomed in. So right, I said I'm targeting here the NES, but of course the question is what kind of system should we target? Let's make something new, and then I can here choose a system. And we got lots of system there. Personally, I'm very much familiar with the NES. We can look at making a Game Boy, well, not the Game Boy Advance, but the good old 8-bit Game Boy, like here, or we can do some OPL chiptunes, that is frequency modulation for early DOS Adlib sound cards. So it's up to you. I'm just most familiar with how to get good sounding things with the NES. So, but well, of course, the Game Boy could also be nice, because with the Game Boy you have something that you do not have with the NES, and that is stereo sound, which can also be somewhat cool. So I give you a couple of more seconds to decide, and if no one decides, I shall, and I would go with NES. So it doesn't look like there are any objections so far. So for NES is all right, says Kersey. Wonderful. As you can see here, NES does not mean plain old NES, or does not have to mean plain old NES, because it says here Famicom with Konami, VRC6, VRC7, MM5, and as it says here with the tooltip, there are additional sound chips in the actual games themselves that augment the already existing sound chip that we have. Frank says, my computer back in the day could do some beeps, so no idea. Oh yeah, by the way, this is also if I want to make a PC speaker sound. Usually what I do is I just use the pulse channel of the NES for things like that. So the first thing that we need to do is to make an instrument that we can then use to drive these oscillators which produce the sound. So let's create a new NES instrument. Let's call this, give it a name, let's call this Lead A or Lead 1. I can call it whatever I want. And I did not want to place it there. I have to be careful. So this is my instrument editor. Let's make it a bit bigger there. And so this means for every tick, essentially I can change what the oscillator is doing. So for now, I just add some steps, and right now, so this means here the volume is 0 throughout. So if I produce a sound, or I request a sound, you can see here with the pulse that there is something happening when I push the keys, but we don't hear anything. So what I can do is either specify values, and I say, well, the first one is 16, next one is 15, then 14, 13, and so on. Or what is much simpler here, I can just paint here a curve. So the last note is the last tick is going to be held. So this is 0. And when I now hit something, you should hear something. So this is the simplest way to make an instrument is just to specify the volume at each essentially step or tick. So of course I can also have it fade in for something like strings. Or for some cool effects I can maybe do something here that is akin to a bit of an echo, perhaps. Let's make this a bit bigger. And with that I can have, something that's a bit like an echo. Kind of neat. So as for our first instrument, usually I go with something that just has a bit here of some bite in front, and then maybe gets a bit quieter or louder, and at the end it just drops off. So when I play this and it is just one note, it sounds kind of neat or nice, but of course, when I want to play longer notes, I need to have some way of just sustaining a certain part in this. And is this possible? Yes, it is. Where I can say that I want to loop certain things, or I can even... So I want to loop this part here. And when I'm letting go of the looping part, where we're here at this top of the stairs that lead down, then I want to say, yeah, this is our drop off. So I can do it like so. So this means this one here is the release. So when I play this, you can see there that this part is being now looped, and when I let go of the key, it plays here this little tail. Definitely sounds like an NES, right? And just by modifying here the volume, we already have something that sounds like an instrument. By the way, if you're curious of how I play this, let me switch over. If I can. Yes, I can switch over. Hello, this is my hand and this is my keyboard, as you can see. So, and when I'm playing here in the tracker, the keyboard rows essentially correspond to two musical keyboard rows. So, so those are the black keys. Every other row, it starts here with the numerals as the black keys, and also here with the ASD row as the black keys, and the other are white keys. So this is one octave on top of the lower one. And this is how you conveniently can enter notes, because you can play it a little bit. I mean, now we have polyphony of only 2 notes at the same time. It's a little bit awkward playing this on a keyboard, on a not a musical keyboard, but I think, hello, it's me again, you think you get the gist of it. So this is essentially how you interact there with the tracker. And so when I'm here and this thing here is yellow, this means it's just armed, and when I hit space, then I'm here in the recording mode, which the recording mode means just when I type keys, they get here logged. And essentially, this is now how the tracker works. So, and I can specify now instruments for, let's say here, pulse number 1, pulse number 2, and the triangle. So for now, we only have here played with pulse number 1. Gist gotten, says Kersey. Wonderful, okay. So the thing is, of course, we can have multiple instruments, but we haven't, for now, in the instrument editor, I want to have it hover here and not lock it in. So as for the instrument editor, you can see so far we've only played here with volume for now. There are more things how we can put some more character into a lead. Again, the simplest one would be just to have here one volume setting, and that's it. The other thing here is arpeggio, which is instead, like I said, having polyphony is kind of hard, because for a chord you need to play 3 tones or 3 notes at the same time. We got 4 channels, so if I play one chord, we wouldn't use pulse number 1, pulse number 2, and the triangle. I mean, let's play a chord here. And when I delete this, kind of nice, but this is all we can do now. We cannot play on this chord. We cannot play anything on top. So, but if we want to play a chord and still play another or keep 1 or even 2 other oscillators out of it, how can we do this? How can we approximate playing a chord without occupying all 3 oscillators? So the thing here is arpeggio, like so many terms in music, it's from old Italian origin, and arpeggio means instead of playing like this chord, what I'm doing is not playing it at once, but one after the other, and this very quickly. So and then I just loop this, and this of course is what many would say the classical NES sound or Chipmusic sound. So now of course I need to loop this. So when I hold now down one note, and again it sounds like a chord, but I can play this in only one oscillator. So again, I hope you get the gist. And this means, should I want to use a certain chord, and I want to play it at a different chord of the same key, then I can have a different arpeggio. In this case, that's major, that's minor now. And of course, this is now baked into the instrument. So for now, I will deactivate our arpeggio that we have here, so just that you know what we can do here. What's a little bit more interesting now is here this what's called duty/noise. So the duty cycle, this is getting a little bit more technical. So let's see if I can launch good old Paint. I wanted to open, but apparently I've uninstalled it. So let's open up quickly Photoshop. And I wonder what Photoshop will do with 300% zoomed in user interface. We will barely see anything. But let's hope for the best. I don't need lots of pixels to show you what's going on. So because the duty cycle is again with electronics, or has to do with electronics. So arpeggio maybe lost me a little. Okay, so arpeggio, essentially, it means just play multiple notes in quick succession. Instead of playing 3 notes at once, you play them in quick succession. And this means that it sounds like a chord. Again, when you loop it. That's a nice major chord, right? It's the same thing when it's not an arpeggio, where I that's essentially the same thing, just not as nice sounding, but it now occupies just one channel when we do this. So that's arpeggio. So the noise and duty thing. So each bar of the instrument is split into 3. Each bar of the instrument is split into 3. So essentially, this means here, this would be the bass line. Whatever note I play, is it a C or is it an E? This only means this is the bass line. And in reference to this bass line, so the next note is here 5 up. And from whatever the bass line is, 5 semitones up. And the next one is 9 semitones up. So this, again, ends or affects in a major chord. So whatever, if I play C, this is going to be a C major. If I play F, this is going to be an F major. But of course, again, it depends on the key of the music track, whether it sounds off or not. In the end, if it sounds wrong, it is wrong, and you can adjust. But again, it's just only in reference there. And the cool thing about this is that you can also use here the arpeggio later on for some neat tricks and effects. But for now, I just deactivate it. There we go. Now to explain now here the duty and noise thing. Since where is Photoshop? There is Photoshop. Beautiful. So as you've noticed here, these channels are called, the first 2 called pulse, and this third one here is called triangle. So when I'm playing here this note in the pulse channel, in the first one, it sounds like this. If I play it here in the second pulse channel, it sounds exactly the same. And if I play the same instrument here in the triangle channel, it sounds different. And that is, with the NES, you cannot change what these channels or what the oscillators, what kind of waveform they produce. So the pulse channels produce a waveform when you look it up at like 1 millisecond or even closer. I mean, with many instruments, with physical or actual instruments, you get certain varieties of sine waves, which sound very flute-like. So if you do not know what a sine wave sound like, good thing that I have Audacity here. So we just generate here a chirp, as it's called. And we start here with a frequency of 440 and a sine wave. And we have here a sine wave for 1 second. So when I zoom in very closely, you can see there, yeah, it's a sine wave and it sounds like this. So this has a slight fade out to it. Then if I generate, so let's keep the amplitude the same. So if I generate not a sine wave, but a square wave, it sounds like this. This is the simplest wave to create electronically. So, and when I zoom in, it is like this. Yeah, it's just like little squares. So we have the current here on the phase here on top. Then it drops down and is on the bottom. And then after an equal amount, right up to the top. So essentially, it could look like a sine wave. So essentially, it's trying to approximate this kind of sine wave just very crudely. Frank says, see, this square wave is how 80s things should sound. Indeed. This is what you get with a PC speaker. This is the sound old microwaves make when they're finished. Even some alarm clocks had this implemented. The good old grocery shopping cashier beep is exactly that. So again, because it's the simplest component or the simplest oscillator to produce a sound with. How can I exit out of this drawing mode here? Just keep hitting escape, and yeah, at some point it works. So again, this is the square wave, or as it's also called, the pulse. So if I'm not changing here, I just make a new instrument. If I'm not changing any of the volume settings, if I just say, okay, everything is full volume, there is no change. And also here in the duty, I just put it to something and it's the same thing. So the PC speaker is like you boot it up and it goes, and that's the same thing. So, and as for the duty cycle, let's delete this now. What we've seen here in Audacity is that the square wave looks like this, so that there is an equal spacing between the low part and the top part of this waveform. So of course, and the duty cycle now means what is the ratio between those. You can have something that looks like this, where the square wave is just very short there on the bottom, or of course vice versa, where it's the opposite, where it's very long here on the top or short there on the top, or you can even change it mid-air. Essentially, it's still the same thing. It's either fully on top or fully on bottom. All the variety you put in is just in the timing. So, and why am I zooming in? I wanted to undo. So, and as for the timing is, does this sound differently? And yes, it does sound differently. And the NES is pretty rudimentary in its capabilities because, where is furnace? With this duty noise cycle, you can only specify 4 different settings there. So I'm just going through them. So that's the usual beep. Let's make it a little bit higher. And it has a slight different timbre, as we say. So the characteristic of the sound is slightly different. Frank says, now use a fancy sound chip and approximate a square wave using only sine waves. And that's the thing that OPL is doing. That is frequency modulation, is where most of the things of the oscillators produce sine waves. But if you want something that sounds like chips or early chip music, what you do is you have a sine wave and just increase its gain until it starts to clip. And when a sine wave starts to clip, it gets louder and louder. I mean, we can look at this. So I say here, I have a sine wave. It starts at amplitude 0.8 and it goes it up to amplitude 10. And it won't allow me to do this. Okay, so let's do it. Start at this, and I say and we amplify it with, let's say, 36 decibels. Maybe this was too much. So when we look at it, again, this is a sine wave. But because I amplified it so much, now it's here either on the top, then there's a sharp drop and it's on the bottom. and it sounds exactly. So this was the sine wave before, and after the amplification, after increasing the gain as we had just right now, where is volume and compression? Amplify by 36 decibels. It becomes this square wave. So Frank, it is possible. Clipping feels like cheating. Yeah, it is. Oh, you were thinking of a Fourier transformation instead. Yeah, of course. Clipping is cheating, but again, if it gets the job done, it's the simplest way to do. Right. So essentially what we can do with the NES, this duty cycle, these settings are just like 3 different settings. I mean, we got here 4, but the first one sounds exactly like the second one. So essentially you only have 3 different ways of how this can sound, but still they are all very NES-like. The Commodore 64, for example, does not have these 4 set duty cycle or duty cycle differences, or these 4 variants that you can program much more independently, because I would say it has a somewhat superior sound chip than the NES. So this is how you get this sweeping Commodore synth sound out of it, because you can dynamically change here the duty cycle. Frank says, okay, so you can't use an NES sound chip for PWM LED dimming and get many steps cut. Indeed, that's the thing. You cannot. So PWM is pulse width modulation, and essentially that what is a pulse width? This is our pulse, and this is the width, and we cannot modulate this by a lot. Exactly, that's the thing. So and of course now since we only had played before now here with the volume, we can also change mid-instrument, mid-note, if you want, the duty cycle. And again, it's not something that is as fine-grained as with the Commodore, but if I do this like so, and let's play a sound, and let's loop this. It's a bit more interesting. It can get some variety out there. You can just from a simple pulse oscillation, you can get a bit more of character, especially if it's a little bit equal sounding, like this. So and of course you can do it much quicker if you want to. You can have weird combinations. And sometimes you can use it also for sound effects, but we will get to this. So this means you cannot change the volume while you're in a note or after a certain time. Since you've struck the note, you can also do the same thing here for the duty cycle, which I will just deactivate for now. So what else do we have here? We have the pitch, and the phase reset, which does not do a lot there on the NES, so I will ignore it. Here for the pitch, it's actually what it says, and it's a bit like here with the arpeggio. So I can change here the pitch after I struck the instrument, and if I'm looping this, you get this sound now. I increase it a little bit here so that it's a bit more pronounced. What is happening? So it's not holding the pitch perfectly, but it's going up and down. And again, this is also something that you can employ to get a bit more character in. Usually, this is more or less it's some sort of the Konami sound, that it doesn't start right away to go up and down like this, but usually just after the note was struck and is held for a bit. So I mean, now my looping point is not very clean, as is you can somewhat hear. So usually you should try to get here something that is, more like a sine wave. Yeah, that's a bit much, perhaps. But hopefully you get, the note gets tired, indeed. And here, as for the pitch, you can also say it's relative. Relative means it adds or subtracts from the current held note. So for example, if I have here, I say the relative mode is -10, then we have a downward sweeping. When it's, of course, we need to loop it. We get this. If we have +10, we get, of course, the sweep up. So again, this is something that you can use to vary what's going on with instruments. So this was all for the pulse. What all can we do with the triangle? So the triangle is, let me show you here again in Audacity. Let's generate here a chirp, and that is a triangle chirp. And yeah, let's have it at an amplitude of 1. And it sounds like this. Very close to a sine wave, actually, just a little bit sharper. I generate now a sine wave, just so that we have a comparison. And I generate also a square. So, did I generate the square? Chirp, square, generate. I put it over the sine. Add monotrack, generate chirp. So that's the square. And monotrack, generate sine. So this was the square that we had before. This is how we want, very, very much emphasized my air quotes, how we want to sound. So we want to approximate this natural sounding sine. And with a triangle wave, we can get relatively close to this sine wave. And of course, if I zoom in, yeah, the sine wave looks like a sine. The pulse wave or square wave looks like little squares, and the triangle looks like little triangles. There is one more waveform that is heard throughout many of these early synthesizers, but the NES cannot produce it natively, and that is the sawtooth wave. So I overwrote now here on top my triangle wave. So I add a new monotrack and generate chirp. So the sawtooth is also what it looks like. It's named what it looks like. So this sawtooth wave is what you have in things like the Roland 303, which has the pulse wave and the sawtooth wave. So how does the sawtooth wave compare against them? Well, it sounds like it's somewhere in the middle between a triangle and a pulse wave. So it has this raspy sound. So usually in synthesizers, it's usually used with equalizers to shave off some of the high frequencies. And again, most of the synthesizers you hear are some variations of this sawtooth wave. And again, just sadly, the NES cannot produce it. And also the downside is you would think that all I just showed you for the square wave, you can do there with a triangle wave. But the NES, again, is somewhat limited. So for one thing, as we have here with the pulse wave, when I change my instrument here to the first instrument, we have here that over the course of its lifetime of every note, we can change here the volume. If I use the same instrument here in the triangle, you do not hear any change in volume because, again, here on the NES, the triangle oscillator does not support different volumes. So what has been done to increase the volume of the triangle? For example, if you listen to Chipmusic from people like Tim Follin, that has a very strong triangle waveform that is very present and very loud. Usually it's used for the bass music or for the bass track of the music. There's one trick: make all the other tracks quiet in comparison, because you cannot change the triangle. So this is set in stone or in silicon in that case. So all the other instruments that you can need to adjust for that. Don't forget the noise wave, exactly, because that's the one that we're looking at. And here this noise is exactly what it is. I think it's it doesn't 8-bit. Is it 8-bit? noise, I'm not even sure. So what did I just do? I created a sample. Let's make a generic instrument. So if I have here an instrument that is the simplest instrument that just says full volume throughout, when I use it here in pulse, so I'm just playing a couple of tones here in pulse, in the triangle, and when I play the same instrument here in the noise channel, so you can hear that the noise has not a very high resolution. And probably from playing many NES games, you hear that this was used also for various kinds of sound effects. But if you change now the pitch of the noise, it changes its characteristics. So if I use now what we had before here with the pitch, where I say the pitch was relative and it changes -10 at every step. No, this was wrong. This was here, -10, and I will loop it. So if I play this here in the pulse, it sounds like this. If I play it for the noise, it sounds like this. So we have a helicopter sound, for example. If I make it a bit slower, we get this effect, for example. So and again, you can now hear that pretty much all the ways of how you can modify these sounds have been used by chip musicians ever since the NES was there. I think the very first titles really just used now the Pulse 1 and Pulse 2 for a little ditty music. The triangle was there to accompany things, to give it a little bit of a bass, and the noise was mostly used for sound effects. And then cut to a couple of years later, and the music has quite changed. For demonstration purposes, let me play you something so that we have the same baseline of what we're talking about. If it loads up, no, you know what? I will go to good old Sofar's domain. Sofar's domain. There we go. This is my number one for old music or chip music. So let's go to NES and listen to something like 10-Yard Fight. This is very early in the lifetime of the NES. I mean, just from looking at the cover. And let's hear at some of the tracks. I mean, they're just a couple of seconds long. So this is just the noise channel. So all you hear are the two pulse channels and the triangle, and they're very clearly identifiable at what track is. So this is apparently the cheering audience. So let's go for Ice Climber or something, which has a little bit more of music going on, but it's still very simple. And now let's listen to something made a couple of years later, and exactly the same hardware, just by someone who is really teased out every last one of its possibilities. And let's go Wolverine on the NES. So this was made in 1991, so 6 years after what you just heard of Ice Climber. Again, it's the same hardware. There is no expansion chips, and yeah, I have to listen to how that sounds. So I think you get the point, right? how much there is still in there. So this is music by Tim Follin, which again also started on the Commodore 64 and has been making music, I think, up until the Super Nintendo. And pretty much all of his music is just banger. So one thing that is also quite underlooked, or overlooked, not underlooked, music that he made. The sad thing is, he made great music for just horrible games. The other music that is well known of him is made for Silver Surfer. And there is one thing that is called Pictionary, if I typed it correctly. And again, it has just some awesome music. Or... let's jump a little bit forward. So the question is, how can you approximate instruments, in this case, like this organ, or have more interesting percussion, for example? As we've heard here with Ice Climber, they are using just the noise channel for percussion. Or in this case, not at all. This is just the triangle channel, for example. Oh yeah, this one reminds me a bit of SimCity 2000, the one before, indeed, because it has this groovy, bluesy swing to it. Yeah, there is not even percussion, maybe in Golf. So again, it feels like two different worlds. So okay, I showed you the basics. Let's make some music. So what I usually like to do is I start out with the drums or the bass, and usually, or the simplest kind of bass is where you just alternate between the bass drum and the snare drum, where you have something that's like, and this already gets you started. We can do this as we have here. Now I make an instrument that is very short, and that has like this fall off here in the volume. So when I play it here in the noise channel, okay, now we still have here the pitch. I need to deactivate this and have it end on a 0. So it's just this hit, and depending on what pitch I play it, you hear that it sounds a little bit different. So the simplest way of doing this kind of percussion is I just play a C for the bass drum, and then let's go some notes higher, like an F, or let's go with a G for the snare drum. And And this would be a very, very simple way of doing drums. The next thing to make drums a little bit more interesting is to have hi-hats on top of them. So that is this, I cannot really reproduce it there with with my voice, but essentially this is pretty much the same thing that we have. It's a very short hit, and it's just very high. So it's a high-pitched noise. So if I put this here in between everything, and I'm not, again, all I'm doing is changing the pitch, the frequency of the noise. And already has this driving NES thing with it. So I'm only using this one noise channel there. And of course, if I want to make things a bit more interesting, I can also change, of course, the volume. So for example, the hi-hats usually are a bit too loud. So as you've seen here, we can change the volume here per instrument. But in this case, I want to keep it as it is, like this hit and then very quick drop off. But I can also change the volume here on every note that I play individually. And this is all these little dots that we have here next to each instrument. So first we have here The first part is what note is being played. The second part here is the instrument number. In this case, it's 02. So this is instrument 2. I just call it short drums, short drum. Why am I typing from? Let's go with short drum number 1. So the next thing that I can enter here is a 2-digit hex code. And in this case, if I just enter F, in this case, in the NES's case, I can only enter, I mean, it's 2 digits, but I can only enter values from 0 to F, so from 0 to 16. And this, again, is the volume of it. So on top of the volume of the individual instrument, of each note, I can also specify a note, how it's going to be played, which means I can have here a note that starts high and then goes low, but when I'm playing it, I can play it very quietly or I can play it loudly. So essentially that's the thing. Frank says it's almost a drum, but not quite there. So it's a from. Indeed, it's a frugal drum, a from. So F means, of course, the highest volume. Again, if I use it here in the triangle, it does nothing. So usually I say is when you do some mixing and you hardly push all the sliders right up on top so that you cannot go any louder. So usually it means for me that I'm going, my default loudness is, or volume is A, which means 10 for everything. So this means I get 9 volume points below. And if I need to go, I have 6 more or 5 more on top. So which means when I play this now, it sounds exactly the same because I said everything has the same volume. But let's say I want to have my hi-hats played at a lower volume. So let's, if you watch here, all the D notes, those are my hi-hats, and wherever there is a D, I will change its volume to 5. And you can see here how working with the tracker can get a little bit fiddly or annoying, because this is really something that you have to be aware of. Usually you do this either at the end when you do some mixing, but I'm doing it right now just so that I can show you. So the hi-hats is not overbearing that much anymore. GI with all cool things says, GL with all cool things, I think, says Commander Stitch. Hello, Commander Stitch. I'm doing a chip tune from scratch. And hopefully we get somewhere. Right now, I'm just doing here on the noise channel, demonstrating how you can get started with drums. So this is all nice and dandy, but it does not sound like the cool drums that we've heard here with things like Pictionary Wolverine, or let's go with Silver Surfer. You don't write surfer with a V. So just a random track. You can hear the drums. And the drums sound slightly different than what we have here. How is this possible? Because I can tell you one thing, Tim Follin did not use any samples. This is exactly he worked with the same things that we have now. How can we make these drums a little bit more interesting or more fat, so to speak? So one thing that I want to do now is to split these instruments. So right now we have one instrument, and depending on what pitch we play it, again, just a demonstration, this is the instrument when I play it at a C. It's the bass drum. If I play it at G, it's much higher, and the higher I get up, in this one octave, the higher the pitch of the noise goes. And when it wraps over into the next octave, it starts at the same crunchy, growly level. So and I used this one instrument and just changed the volume when I was playing different instruments. As with programming, you can do this, but of course, it's probably better if you organize things a little bit better for yourself. So where I have an instrument that is I just use as a snare drum, and another instrument that I just use is the bass drum, for example. So essentially, I say here, as for my name, I prefix it with N for noise and say, this is going to be my BD, my bass drum. And then I delete everything there. And then we can say, okay, instrument number 2 is my bass drum. And I just played at a C. So this is how it sounds now. I duplicate this and say this is going to be my SD, my snare drum, and it's a different instrument, but I haven't changed anything. So the good thing about this is, should I at some point think, okay, I need to change all the volumes, I can do it in the instrument and don't have to go line by line through it and punch some numbers in new. So let's go here with A. And for now, we'll just leave it at that and have here now different snare hi-hats. So the hi-hat again is this very high instrument. So again, I call it OH. This is the open hi-hat, and the CH would be the closed hi-hat. So the open hi-hat goes like, and the closed one like. And again, it's something that is usually, you could play it with the same instrument, it just cut it off. But here for the closed hi-hat, I make it very short so that it's really just this one very short thing, maybe even short. Let's go here with 2 ticks. And play it here with, let's go here with B. And fill up all the spaces that I have. Like I said, I can only play a certain number of instruments concurrently. In this case, it's 4, and one of them is the noise. And now I just copy what I have here and fill up here this whole pattern. So what I have here now is 64 16th notes. And this is one pattern. And I can loop patterns, I can mix patterns, I can cue patterns. Right now we just have one. So this means it's just a looping. So what you can see here is we have here instruments 2, 3, and 4, which correspond to our bass drum, snare drum, and our closed hi-hat. And again, if I want to change the character of one drum, as we had before, if I play everything with the same instrument, well, if I change the instrument, then I change all the drums. In this case, let's make the hi-hat a little bit or louder. And this is really how I can tweak and tune those instruments while things are playing. Of course, the same thing I can do here for the bass drum. And for the snare drum as well. And all I'm just changing now is the volume. And I've shown you before, I can also change, for example, the pitch of it. So which means, let's try it here now for the snare drum. It sounds a little bit more interesting now. And let's try the same thing here for the bass drum, but I don't think it's going to be working because it's already at the lowest end. And I said it wraps over if I change now the pitch. So it's now in the lower octave, and then it starts out where the hi-hats begin. So essentially I would say that this sounds like an okay beat for now, but it still does not sound, let's save it for now as stream test. It still does not sound like the Tim Follin drums that we've had before. Frank says, do you know what kind of tools they used back in the day? I imagine it was a lot less easy then. As far as I know, there were things like the almighty sound tracker or something, especially developed for the Amiga. But from the original times, I think what I've heard is pretty much everyone was rolling their own tools. Chris Hülsbeck, I know for a fact that he coded his own tracker. Alberto Jose Gonzalez, who you might know as McAlby, who made the music for the Game Boy Smurfs games and Asterix games and V-Rally on the Game Boy. Again, I think also he made his own tracker on a ZX Spectrum for the Game Boy and then just ported it over to the Game Boy. So essentially, yeah, everyone was writing their own tools. And some people, especially in the early days, they were just punching in assembly code. Because what actually is happening here behind the scenes is with the audio hardware, you have the chip has certain registers and you just push bytes into these registers. And depending on what register a certain byte arrives, it sets the volume of this oscillator, or it tells this oscillator to stop or to change its frequency and that sort of thing. So of course, if you have this worked out and you have the spec, you can write music by just translating this on a piece of paper if you can. But of course, yeah, nowadays the tools are much, much easier. And the cool thing also is with tools like here we have with Furnace, you can export things and you can export them even as VGM, which again is just a byte coded stream a stream of bytes that you can push to the hardware. As I've had it with the OPL music that I made. I composed it here in Furnace, exported it as VGM, and then had my program interpret, or not really interpret it, just read, okay, which register should I push the next byte to, and then I had nothing else to do with it. So people back then wrote their own audio drivers. And of course, the more time you spend with the audio driver, the more in-depth knowledge you had, the better music, the better result you could produce. So it sounds a lot better than we had before, but still has not this oomph. And now here comes the trick. What good old Tim Follin and many others had been using is, instead of just using the noise, you know what? You can also use the triangle in combination. So whenever, for example, you know what? Let's make here a NES, and I call this T bass drum, TBD. And this is just here on the bass. The triangle, like I said, is usually used for the bass, but of course you can hijack it in some way. And let's do this. So one thing that you cannot do here is change the volume, because this is not supported. So even if I have here 0 volume, that is respected. But if something is of 1 volume, it sounds the same as volume 15. When will TBD done? TBD, which one? To be decided done. This one or the DOS game? TBD. So where was I? Right, so you cannot change the volume there. Exactly. Or the DOS game. Yeah, the video is in production. The game itself is not, because it requires a whole rewrite for reasons. And I get into these reasons in the documentary. Okay, T-bass drum to be done. Oh, now I get it. I thought you were talking about the DOS game, but you're so far ahead of me. So, right. The TBD. Triangle bass drum, by the way, for those who are wondering. So instead of setting the volume, which is not really possible, like I said, if I put in there a 0, then I will just have this short bleep, which is a little bit more that I want. But of course, I can use, for example, here the arpeggio or the pitch. And what can I do here with the pitch? Well, I can do something like this falling thing. You don't hear it right now, but if I increase here, when I say it starts from much higher and then goes down much faster. Why am I not hearing it? Oh, because I'm zoomed in so much. So what you can see here is I'm just shifting here the window of what I'm seeing here. So this essentially is the pitch of this one note. So I'm starting at a very high pitch here compared to the bass line. It's now at 90 ticks, pitch ticks, whatever this is, higher than we had before. And then rapidly I decrease here the pitch. So we're starting at 90 or 300. Let's go with 200, 100, 0, minus 63, and so on. So when I play it, you can hear it. Instead of having this boop, it sounds pew, pew. Let's make it a little bit longer so that it's a bit more pronounced. So, and what is this good for, you might ask? Let's make this a bit more linear. Minus 100, minus 200, minus 300, minus 400. So when you like disco music, you probably can recognize this as somewhat an approximation of these tom-toms of these drums, where it's boom, 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 boom. And of course, you can use this also when it's very low, like here. And if I make it a bit shorter, so that it's just this pew, pew, pew. It sounds a little bit like the techno drums, right? Like the... Well, it's maybe a bit too short. So when I play this triangle sound, whenever I'm also playing a bass drum, I think I skipped over some basses, or did I? Not really, but now it mixes with the noise. If I switch off the noise, you can hear the triangle. And if I bring the noise in, suddenly it mixes it. I mean, now you can pretty clearly hear it. But if I do the same thing there for the snare drum, so TBD is becoming our TSD for snare drum. Essentially, it's doing the same thing, just at a higher pitch. And let's start with 500. Let's make this a very sharp drop, or 600, 300, 0, minus 100, minus 300, so that it's not pew, but pew. Let's listen to it. And again, it has this pitch drop. So again, and now wherever there a snare drum is being played, I play this triangle bleep as well. And suddenly it feels like, it doesn't feel like there's only noise happening. Maybe this needs to be a little bit longer. And maybe it's a bit too... It drops a little bit too harsh. Or not harsh enough. So, and suddenly, again, it feels like there is more to this noise. So if we just play the triangle now, you can hear that there is something happening. And thank you, Kersey, for redeeming Unicorn. Just copied this over. Let's have a sip of water. Maybe that's a bit too high. What have I been doing there? 1,500, maybe 0, maybe, yeah, 150. Again, I'm just doing this by, as we say in German, by thumb. So it's just a rough estimate of the numbers that I think. So if I make the snare a little bit shorter still, and we play it again with the noise. So the noise overall, the drums are too loud. So now it's much easier, so that I can diminish the volume. because now the drum, the triangle sounds louder in comparison. So if I make here also the bass drum, the triangle there on the bass drum a little bit shorter as well. And also the hi-hats. And I think we are at some point where we have a very simple beat. So the question now remains, but what if we want to use, still want to use a bass? Because right now we're occupying the bass with this augmentation of the drums. So we have some pretty neat sounding drums. And I'm not getting into this right now because I've been doing this. Usually I'm making the bass, and then at the very end I'm doing these augmentations. So because the thing is, like I said, now I'm occupying the bass. And you know what, I can open some music that I've made that I can show you that has exactly this thing sorted out, because it's a little bit easier to listen to than explain. Where do we have it? Chipmusic. Oh yeah, maybe the subways of your mind. That's a very simple one. So if we just listen to the drums, they sound like this. So the triangle is the bass as well. And now I'm using a different, in this case, that might have not been the best example, because for this track I'm using two NES chips concurrently. So I have here one triangle that is just augmenting the drums. And another triangle that is just playing the bass. So that is not the way of cheating that I meant to have. Let's have some older chip music then. Well, not that old. If I can find them, chip music furnace. Oh, there we go. So if we just listen at the noise and the triangle, I think they're... So I'm using noise, I'm using the triangle for the bass and for the drums. So the thing is, now I play it to you, I think I just have to play it. So this is the triangle, where can I find it? 6 triangle bass drum absolute. So every note that I play starts with this drop, but then plays a regular bass. That's the thing. So if we look at what is happening here in the instrument, I'm doing this with an arpeggio. So this is what I meant. I want before, where I said we can repurpose this arpeggio. So whenever I'm playing a note that is just meant to be a bass note, the very first part, these 4 ticks, have this pew pew with it. So in that case, it sounds like it is already part of this drum. So essentially, I'm hijacking, I'm snipping off like these 4 first notes. These 4 first, not notes really. It's the first 4 ticks of this note, which plays the triangle. In the triangle, the part of the bass drum or the snare drum. My God, this was hard to put into words. I'm sorry. So if you just listen to the triangle, it plays the bass, but in many notes in the front, it has this pew 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 there. And if you just listen to the noise, it is very simple as we've had before, but put it together, the drums have a little bit more oomph to them. And now we have still our 2 pulse channels that we can use to play a melody in this case. So where were we with our test? So of course this could use a little bit more tweaking, but overall we have something that we can work with. So the next, of course, course of action would be to have some sort of bass or melody that we want. And this for me is usually the hardest part, so this is why I kept it for last. So we already have here one instrument that we made right in the beginning. That sounds like this, but you know what? Maybe we can again make it a bit more interesting by changing here its duty cycle or animating its duty cycle. So the first couple of ticks will be of a different duty cycle, and then we will settle at this classic, very regular beep sound. And now without it. And now with. And just by changing the duty cycle for the first two ticks of this instrument, it feels like it has some sort of percussion to it. And of course, I can lean even more into it and play the first two ticks as well at a different volume. And you know what? Maybe I will say that the first tick of every note that I play will be 2 octaves higher. Or the first two ticks. And now it really has like I'm hitting some sort of metallic thing where you have this pling in front. And again, I'm playing this just on one oscillator, and try to be very conservative with all the tools that I have. So instead, I think this is the gist of Chipmusic, because you have so little channels, like 3 channels, melodic channels that you can play at the same time, 4 with noise. Instead of playing things at the same time, you have to play them not concurrently, but sequentially, but very quickly. So again, instead of having this ding sound at the same time as another sound, I play the ding very shortly and then switch over to the other sound. And with that is also the idea of, the approach that Tim Follin used to make a somewhat realistic, closely, let's say, recognizable organ sound with an NES. So, and of course, as for music and melody and that sort of thing, usually I use different software where I can play with an actual keyboard, because making music here inside the tracker, it at least for my tastes, it's usually very, let's say, electronic and repetitive, and everything lands on beats because, I mean, it looks like a bit like a spreadsheet. So let's try to make some sort of melody. You see how it feels a little bit counterintuitive of coming up with melodies, because I have to use the cursor keys to insert how long I want to keep one tone. So let's listen to it. Yeah, not very interesting. Not very interesting. Let's see if I play something at a higher. Yeah, so it's very monotonous and mechanical. Frank says melodious spreadsheet could be the name of a band, maybe. Yeah, a very bad one. But yeah, one other way of making music, if you want to look into it, is called Strudel. And that is essentially a little bit, it feels like while you're programming JavaScript, you can make music. And Strudel, there we go, strudel.cc. And I think I've also showed this at some point on a stream, where I post the link in the chat if you're curious. But essentially, it works like this: making sounds, making samples. What is Strudel? So essentially, you select a bank and provide a string, which is the sounds. And going further down, you can see how much you can do there with this language. In this case, it's just percussion, but if we go further down, first notes, like this here, for example. It feels like a sequencer, but it's JavaScript that you can code in. And I find this very charming. I want the other Strudel, says Frank, much tastier. Yeah, the Topfenstrudel or the Apfelstrudel. We have so many Strudels in German. So, okay, let's make something that's slightly akin to music, and let's stick to the basics that we've just heard, where my second line will be just very... Oh, I need to insert some bars here. Yeah. Probably should have prepared something here that is not as monotonous as it sounds here. Frank says Apfel is, I think, the only one I got out to here. The only one that got out to here. Yeah, Topfen is cream cheese. Is it cream cheese? Yeah, it's cream cheese, which again is also very tasty, especially for some reason. They, at least in some cafes here, they ask you if they should warm it up in the microwave, just heat it before you want to eat it. Of course, with apple, it's delicious, and also with Topfen cream cheese, it's quite something. And of course, they have also raisins in there. So if you like them, good for you. If not, I think nowadays many offer options without raisins. But Apfelstrudel personally is my favorite as well, with a little bit of apple, cinnamon, sugar. Sometimes there is even some crumbs there, where it's like where you have not breadcrumbs, but more like cookie crumble, but with butter inside of it. Yeah, cannot recommend it enough. So yeah, I think my introduction to chip music was somewhat scatterbrained and overwhelming, and I lost myself with the details. So I think, yeah, for my first dry run of this talk that I'm intending to give on chip music, yeah, I probably should head back to the drawing board. Frank usually doesn't mind the raisins. This is good, but having an option without is very reasonable indeed. Reasonable. I have to steal this. That's very good. Yeah. In case you're interested in, I mean, how did I happen upon these? I mean, there are many more of these small tricks that you can employ when doing chip music. So how can you arrive at making these or figuring out these tricks? And my solution is usually to listen. I mean, right now there's your final countdown there. But Fubar is my MP3 and music player of choice. And of course, there I have a couple of chip tunes in there. Let's go here for the NES, and what do we have here? Games. Where do we have it? Wolverine, or what did we play before? Silver Surfer, right? Shatterhand was also good. Silver Surfer there. So Tim and Jeff Fallin. And you can switch off in many NES playback software. You can switch off certain channels or certain oscillators. So let's bring this here into NSF Play and hope it doesn't crash. I think it might. I'm not sure that I can drag and drop it out of here into NSF Play. No, it does not like it. It does not like it. Because NSF Play is, I think it's 20 years old now. But the cool thing here, again, you can have a very fine-grained overview of all the options for the individual sound chips that you have or that are provided. So Was it here? Yes, options, settings. Oh, that's the same thing. File, open settings. No, I don't want to open the settings. I want to open a file. I think I can do this here. File operations. No. Open containing folder. That's not helping a lot, but still. Silver, surfer. There we go. So where was this? Here with the device where it can switch. Oh yeah, with the channel mixer. Was this the channel mixer? The device mixer? Channel mask. Yeah, the channel mask. There it was. Where it can switch off certain channels. So if we just listen now at the noise, at the drums, you can hear Tim is pretty much doing what I did, just a lot better. And now if I add here the triangles, and if you just listen at the triangle, you can clearly hear where the sounds or where the drum beats are happening. And of course, if you have the two square channels on top, there is a lot happening there. And again, this is how I figured out how many of these tricks were made. Yes, Commander Stitch, here's it. And again, to me, yeah, Tim and Jeff Fallin, they are the gold standard when it comes to amazing music on the NES. And of course, even on many Commodore 64 things, and even on the Super Nintendo, there are so many atmospheric tricks and tracks by these two people. It's kind of, like I said, it's kind of humbling to listen just to their music, because they're on like 3 or 4 different systems and killing it on all of them. So, and again, there's something that we can compare it against. I had Ice Climber before, but if you can find something from 95, 96, I mean, what is Sanzu Nein Tokyo? Yeah. A long time ago, I got this one archive of NES chip music, and there is really all the music that has been ripped up to, I think, 2002 is in there. Someone put it on Napster. Yes, I'm that old. And from there I still have it, because again, if it's zipped and music like this, how large are those files? Let's see. Artwork. It's a couple of kilobytes. Like here, 13 kilobytes is the entire track, soundtrack of one game there. Yeah, probably not the best one, but I still got it just in case I need it. So, and as for, I mean, this was it here for NES chip music. The thing is, it's for many 8-bit computers, it's pretty much the principles are the same, where you try to, instead of playing chords, like 3 tones at the same time, instead you use arpeggios where you play like the same 3 notes, but in very quick succession. This usually applies to pretty much all of the early chip music out there. Of course, the implementations are just a little bit different. Like I said, for the Game Boy, it behaves more or less like the NES, but there are certain things, like there is one wavetable synthesizer where essentially you can set your own waveform. And this is why the Game Boy has, in some regards, a slightly better sound chip, I would say, than the NES. And of course, then there's the Game Boy Advance, and you have sample-based playback with the Amiga and the Super Nintendo, and things are quite different there. But yeah, with the early things, like there's even 1-bit music. Frank, you said the PC speaker, like if it just bleeps, it's fine, or if it's already enough, or you already know this music. And of course, you can do these kinds of things here with Furnace as well, where all you need is just this one pulse channel. And let me see, because I think I even tried my hand at these very one-bit music PC engine. Like, you have lots of experiments there. Was it that? Ah, no, this was also using a wavetable. Ah, kind of neat, actually. Bloaty Bird, 99 Luftballons. Game BD test. Was it that one? No. Ah, darn it. Was this really 2025? Chipmusic. Wavetables. No. Yeah, I cannot find it right now. Maybe this was earlier. Covers Furnace Lunaris. Yeah, this, just for reference, this is the Game Boy, how a Game Boy music chip is laid out. You also have there just 4 channels, and again it's pulse 1, pulse 2, but instead of having a dedicated triangle channel, you have a wavetable channel. And a wavetable means you can specify here your own waves. So in this case here, Furnace, the tool that I'm using, says here enable synthesizer, which means you do not have to program these waves manually, but instead you can use a built-in synthesizer, and essentially it renders out the waveform that gives you that sound that you want. So let's see if there is a wavetable sound. Where I said you cannot have a square wave, a sawtooth wave on the NES, but there on the Game Boy you can, by using wavetable disabled. Why? It is this one here. So essentially here, this wave here is this square wave, not square wave. So just going through these different waves, you can hear how they sound all differently. Which is kind of cool for hardware from 1998. So I think, like I said, that's my meandering way of trying to convey the amazement and magic of chip music. And I want to see the square beat. Is maybe that. No, that was also not it. Square beat. Yeah, so this would be possible on a PC speaker. And there has even been, or is still music made for the PC speaker. If I can find it. Because it's kind of amazing that just having this one puny speaker there, and people are making entire albums just with one oscillator that you cannot even change its volume, and they make entire music for it. So if I can just find it, PC speaker music. At some point I have it. The PC speaker shouldn't sound this good. PC speaker wizardry. Yeah, I mean, if you have a listen to maybe we can find the PC speaker version of Monkey Island theme, because that shows what is possible with early chip music. No. You can clearly recognize it, right? Yeah, this is one of the things that I really grew up with was this rendition of the Monkey Island theme, because I had it pirated, of course, as we all did, or many of us did as kids. And I used to play it on a early PS2 notebook, which had just a horrible LCD black and white screen. It was all very slow and washed out, and it only had PC speaker music. So, and I listened to, this is how I came to Monkey Island, in black and white with PC speaker. Anyway, that's it for nostalgia talk. Right. So, again, I want to apologize for this rather meandering way of trying to convey the magic of chip music. So hopefully I can find something, some ways to make this a little bit more forward or forthcoming, so that you don't have to listen to me try to make the drums. So probably it was not my best idea to start with the drums. So if you have any input in this, like I said, a very unstructured way of trying to convey chiptunes, please let me know. Because I'm not very happy with how I explain things, because I tend to get carried away. You know me. And yeah, if any of you are interested in this tracker, in this software that I have, and what else it can do is, it says here, when I say new song, choose a system, and you can see here, these are just the game consoles. There have been so many systems implemented there. So if I want to make music for the BBC Micro, yes, it says it has 3 square waves and 1 noise channel, or even the NEC PC 88. With what kind of different extensions it has, people have been really going to town on this thing here. Or even arcade systems. Let's say a Sikios arcade system, never heard of it, but apparently you can make music for it with this thing. So, and some other trackers that are known are, for example, the Femi tracker, which has been my go-to ever since, or at least until I've discovered the Furnace tracker. So essentially it's the same thing. It's just the one that the Femi tracker I'm more used to than with the Furnace tracker. And the only upside of the Femi tracker is that you can create an NSF file, which means that is the Nintendo sound file, that is this format that really you can pop onto a flash card and into the actual hardware and play it there. With Furnace, you cannot do this right away. You have to do some magic with file conversions, but yeah, through some if you want to go through some hoops, it's still possible. And the other thing that has been around or well known is Deflamask. And that's pretty much the same thing as the Femi tracker, but look, it even has a tutorial. That's kind of amazing. The same thing for FM synthesis, like the Sega Genesis or some arcade boards, for example. And it even allows you to, well, right now it does not allow me to do something. Skip tutorial. You can even have here in Furnace, you can create a Deflamask compatible track, and you can even export and import or transfer between Deflamask and Furnace, which again is kind of cool if it's that things are that open. So and where can you get it? Well, I think it's on a GitHub, of course. Where else? Furnace tracker GitHub. And yeah, again, I'm a big proponent of software like this that are made by individual people who really have the user at their heart and program for an audience, and not like big corporations who program essentially they just try to get with how little they can get away with. But you already know my stance on this. So yeah, Furnace is on GitHub, and the latest release has been out for over half a year now. So it's time for a new release. And I think it's possible that you can donate, but overall, because it's more or less a community project, this is why there are so many different systems supported. Like I said, it's kind of amazing what is all in there. Again, even for FM synthesis, you can even say, I want to make something for the Super Nintendo. And for this, of course, you need samples. And I mean, this is why I chose Furnace, because once I've grown, or once I've adapted to a certain user interface or a certain way how a program behaves, of course, it's super annoying if you want to do so, or if you want to do the same but for different system, and just because you change the system, you need to use completely different tools for that system, for example. And this is why I spent the effort that I did to get to know Furnace and what it can do, so that I can make music for the PC speaker, the Game Boy, NES, OPL music for ad-lib sound cards, pretty much anything for the Super Nintendo within the same program, which is kind of cool. Yeah, one thing that you can see here, this effects list that I haven't touched before, which is again quite powerful. Just to get very quickly back into the track that we try to make. I said you can have different effects like the pitch that we've seen, or arpeggio, on a per note basis. So whenever you hit a note after a certain amount of ticks, you can say it changes the pitch or something. But you can also do this here in the actual music track, where you can say, yeah, I want now every note that is played to slide up or to slide into the next note, for example, while at the same time fading out the volume, for example, at the end of a track where you want to have a fade out. And there are so many things like re-trigger the same note or jump to the next pattern. And if you all combine these possibilities, you could really make some amazing advanced tracks. So even if you're just not really interested in making your own chip tunes, there is still so much good chip music out there. And again, only for that I can recommend Furnace, because it comes with a crap load of demo music. Let me just see if I can find it. Portable audio, not taggers, trackers, Furnace, latest demos. And yeah, you see the amount of systems and demo music there is. So let's have a look at maybe some OPL demo music. I have no idea. I won't be there again. Yeah. Let's jump ahead a little. So I'll make this a little bit quieter on my end, because you can see here, this is now the amount of different instruments that you have here. And again, to me, if you have more than, let's say, 4 or 3 oscillators there, it becomes a little bit unwieldy, I feel, there in the editor to figure out what is currently happening, because again, you have to keep track of what is currently playing in what track and so on. But again, I'm pretty amazed that time is lost. OPL 4, what is this? Like I said, so much good music to discover that is just demo music for Furnace. And the cool thing, should you want to get into this, you can, it's like the source code to music. So you can actually look at pretty much anything. What is this? Femitune 1. Let's just listen to Pulse 2 or C Triangle. And add some more tracks. And that way you can tease out how things are made. And I always like this, even if I do not understand it in many occasions. I mean, I also looked at the source code of Command & Conquer, for example, because for some reason the entire source code shipped with the Steam version of the Command & Conquer remastered game, which is, again, can they do this? Do they know that this happened? But still, I had to look at it just out of curiosity. And what do you know it? The code is super well documented, and even there are even headers, not just headers in C++ or C language headers, but also headers for comments, who worked on what at what point in time. There even in the source code is for every function, it's clearly labeled and documented. Okay, this function has been written by this person on that date, and this is the purpose of the function, and it takes these parameters, it expects these parameters, and that's the output. I've never written code that was this well documented. So I think if you wanted to look into, in this case, for example, Command and Conquer, it's really something that is possible now. And yeah, to zip up this package here of today's stream, which the through line has been retro and making things that are retro yourselves, because I already have been inspired by Solitaire, the Forbidden Solitaire, just because, like I said, this 90 nostalgia is very strong with me. And again, I wonder how strong this kind of weird nostalgia is for people who are now in their, I don't know, 20s, 30s perhaps, because they didn't grow up as many of us did in the 90s with these kinds of weird, or let's say, where people try to do more with computers than the actual things were capable of. With FMV, full motion video things, where they said, yeah, everything is going to be an interactive movie, despite CD-ROM drives barely being able to output enough or have enough throughput to put full screen video with 24 frames on the screen, which was actually not really possible until the advent of video CDs, for example. So I really wonder what is nostalgia to younger people and how they see our nostalgia. Probably like I see games from the 1970s that are played on Unix computers, where I think, yeah, that's kind of neat, but it's a little bit too old for me to enjoy because it's just a little bit too abstract. But then again, there are things like good old PlayStation 1 graphics, which have been making a huge resurgence for some reason, and I can see why, because it feels like PlayStation 1 graphics are like pixel art in a sense, that pixel games, 2D pixel games, 8-bit 2D pixel games are, because it invites the viewer, the audience, to partake in the world building, which is a very highfalutin way of saying, yeah, you have to use your imagination because everything is just so crummy and low in detail that it's hard to make out what is going on, and you have to fill in the gaps. And again, I think this is very enticing, because suddenly you're not only consuming, but you're actively working again together in tandem with the creators to shape this world. And maybe you see something in this blotch of pixels that's really hard to decipher what it actually is than someone else sees, which again is something that reminds me of my childhood, and especially in school, where some of me and my friends, we just drew characters from video games, and because the resolution was this bad and we didn't have, I don't know, ways to really capture or photograph what's on the screen, you had to memorize it in some way. It was really interesting to see how everyone drew their Marios, for example, how they imagined them to look like. Anyway, I'm getting off track here. Fronter is here. PSX graphics. Now we're talking. Yeah, Fronter, congratulations. By the way, I think you're done with your thesis. And Fronter is also working on a PlayStation 1 styled game. It's a dark fantasy. Is it, can we say, is it a walking simulator? Well, there's a bit more gameplay in there as well. Is it already on Steam? Can I share a link to it? Is there something? And Frank says, nostalgia isn't what it used to be. Oh, that's, you know what, it should go on a t-shirt. Nostalgia is not what it used to be. I like this. You know what, I have to screenshot this, and if I ever make this a t-shirt or something, I will make sure you get one too. Fronter says, no, not yet. It's our February goal to put up the Steam page. Yeah, that's the thing, because Fronter is also making this game, or at least the first demo of this game, is part of a project for the University of Applied Sciences, right? So game making is like at best 70% of your time. The most of it is just writing the thesis, the report, and doing all the administrative stuff that is required of you. So this, I totally get it why it still takes a little bit of time. Frank says, I'm pretty sure many people have already put that on t-shirts. Oh yeah, that's true. But that's done now. Oh, thank God. So you're free of the shackles of paperwork, because again, I know how it goes. You just want to finish your thing or do the thing, and all your time is spent with trying to fill out a report where you say in high terms of how you made the thing and all essentially you want to do is do the actual thing and not write about it as it is. But yeah, congratulations, so that it's done now. Are you done with the studies overall, or is there still something open? But in either case, you can more or less focus on the actual game. Yeah, well said. Thank you. Yeah, there have been many games recently. Is it because I know of your game, or because there has been, like I said, this sudden resurgence in the last 6 or 10 months, I feel, of PSX style graphics? Because it feels like every other trailer that I see, or I'm a subscriber to the Debug magazine. I see there is something, Debug magazine. There we go. That is also just filled to the brim with new indie games that you may or may not have seen. And many of them, again, sport the PSX graphics with a little twist in some cases. Again, which is, for some reason, this really falls into my ballpark. Probably, again, due to my age. Okay, you need to defend the thesis next week. Oh, fingers crossed. You will do just fine. I'm sure of it. But still, it's something that you have to do. Frank says, I never had or used a PlayStation, so no actual nostalgia for it here. Okay, in that case, that's quite interesting. So what is your take on the PSX style, PS1 style graphics and nostalgia? I mean, I feel like some of the PC-based simulation games, like your helicopter simulation or your fighter jet simulations, they also had somewhat of this unfiltered 3D graphics with very chunky pixels and texels on them. And we have a smart detection, and apparently, and it held Cursey Boo's comment, because apparently the automated moderator, apparently a fancy term for, yes, we have ChatGPT trying to figure out what is and is not allowed. Apparently it said, when Kirsty said, I was an N64 kid instead, apparently the AI of Twitch thought, you know what, this kind of talk is not allowed here. We're talking about PlayStation graphics. So go away with your filtered textures. I don't know why. Apparently it was offended by it. But okay, so you were more of a Nintendo 64 kid instead, because I mean, I always felt that personally, I was also more of a Nintendo 64, not because I had one, just because a friend of mine had one, and I was just amazed by how smooth everything was. Because I mean, you had like 32 kilobytes of texture memory, so the texture was usually very, very small and crummy, but they have been filtered to death of these silicon graphics like chips. And of course, the perspective was right and correct, and the PlayStation was just trying to, on the PlayStation, you tried that it didn't wobble too much, everything. So I always felt like, the Nintendo really knows how to do 3D graphics back then, with at least the early teen me, what thought that he had it all figured out. So, and then of course I started really at another friend, I played some PlayStation games there, and I realized, okay, it probably doesn't look that good, but you know what, those games are really for grown-ups, where we played, like, I don't know, Gran Turismo, the first one, or some light gun shooter, and I thought, I'm just 12, I'm probably not allowed to play this kind of game because it's all only for grown-ups. So in that had me shift my experience for the PlayStation. So this is again fitting why I think many games that harken to the style of Silent Hill and Resident Evil nowadays pop up, because if you make a Resident Evil kind of game and it looks like it was made on the Nintendo 64, it would somehow crash or clash a little bit, at least in my very personal view of things, with the Nintendo 64 flair, because to me Nintendo 64 is always sunny and friendly and wahoo, it's a me, Mario, and having a very dark and gritty game on the Nintendo 64 probably, at least to me, would somewhat be at odds with how I remember it. But of course, nostalgia is a strong thing, and of course, if you make a horror game with Nintendo 64 graphics, no one's stopping you, and probably it will do just fine. It's just me. Again, I'm rambling. Fronte says, my first console was the NES. No, good old times. I always wished for an NES because one of my friends had one, but I think my first console handheld was the Game Boy that I got in 1990. And then I wished so much for the Super Nintendo when it got out. And after half a year, my mom just relented and I got the Super Nintendo with Super Mario World and Mario Paint. And I was just the happiest kid there was. Frank says, I definitely didn't like early PC 3D, which to me tended to prioritize textures over resolution, which I didn't like. The PlayStation things I see look like that to me. That's very interesting because that makes so much sense. Because I feel with textures, it's a cheap, how to put it, with higher texture resolution, your game looks much better on screenshots at first glance. Of course, if the 3D models and the 3D rendering is not is perspectively correct and not just wobbling all the time, and you just see more, of course, is better to play, but of course doesn't look as good on screenshots. I remember when looking at Quake in magazines and it looked just like crap because everything was this brown gray. They thought, really, why are people so amazed by this crap? Everything looks drab. Yeah, and then I played it at a friend. I thought, okay, maybe now I get it. Oh, Kirsty said, never played Conker's Fur Day, Bad Fur Day, I guess. No, I did not. But yeah, this is a grown-up game. But again, I think I saw it somewhere, and I thought this was just a kid's game because of the wisecracking mascot character, right? So it didn't feel like grown up to me. It was more like, see, we can hijack a mascot character 3D game and just have him say weird things and then have them fight a big turd as one of the bosses. Frank says, we got a Mac at home when I was 15 or so. Okay, and I was used to the graphics on that, which, for example, Flight Simulators was untextured but much higher resolution. Yeah, wasn't it the Bungie, the game developer, also got started out on Macintosh and or the Mac, and I think Marathon is the latest game that they made is called Marathon, and also the first game that was for Mac was Marathon. And I think they were the harbingers of, with a Mac you can do cool 3D graphics and have actual games on there. And the first Halo before Microsoft got them was actually targeted for Macs, which again is kind of crazy, because if that didn't happen, then perhaps Mac would be the gold standard of 3D graphics. But yeah, with Apple and Mac, this was also the high resolution, right? Also with the first Macintosh, it was only just black and white and 1-bit graphics, but much higher resolution than the colorful big blobby pixels that we had. That's interesting. Frank said, and the other things before that were pixel art, which was much at its height and polished. Early textured 3D looked like a massive step back in graphics quality, and PlayStation fits nearly in. I think personally, to me, again, this is just personal preference, I feel like that the early Nintendo 64 games have aged much worse because the filtering and the perspective correction was much better than on the PlayStation, because the PlayStation itself had a very busy image because everything was just huge pixels and everything was just wobbling in some point, but it was coherent in a sense. And with the Nintendo 64 you had this pretty much good 3D, but the textures were all just mushy and hard to decipher and all blurry, and the polygon count was just horrible. And I was just looking at GoldenEye some weeks back, and I thought, I remember that being just graphically amazing on the Nintendo 64 when I played it at a friend 30 years ago. And then I realized, okay, all the face textures were just really just like photos that were plastered on. So to me, I feel like that the image of the PlayStation was more coherent and to me more pleasing and has aged much better. But I give you 100%. You're right when you said the first 3D looked like a step back, because you had like gorgeous 2D graphics where things like, what was it, Lionheart? Was it called Lionheart on the Amiga? Again, a 2D game. Let's see if I can find it. Lionheart Amiga game, or Lion. Yeah, I think it was Lion. Yeah, that was it. I mean, just look at these graphics. I clicked it. Please do not die. Yeah, I will just scroll here, but yeah, this really was the cream of the crop when it came to 2D art, right? And then you have 3D and everything, as you said, it just looks like 3 polygons with 16 by 16 textures, and everyone is telling me, yeah, this is the future, and you go, seriously? But yeah. Fronte says, nothing ages as well as PS1 Hagrid. PS1 Hagrid. What is PS1 Hagrid? Is this for the Harry Potter game on the PS1, which I have never played? Frank says, but I never used any of those consoles, so it's all very much from an outsider perspective. Yes, sometimes I feel like also with outsider's perspective, I mean, Fronte, your approach to the game was design thinking, and at design thinking's heart is the consumer problem or the audience problem. And I always feel like it's super interesting if you look at something that you're very familiar with and just try to figure out, okay, what people who aren't as familiar with the outside perspective are thinking about them. So when people from outside the bubble, you invite them in and to share what they think of it. And again, in so many cases, it's just illuminating or often even inspiring to see, okay, what they see that I never realized. Again, it's like when you ask, where did I read this? There's already many years back. But when people said, please design or an RPG, a role-playing game. And they asked lots of different people also from games, with the games background, and also some authors and some people like they were in their 60s or 70s, have been very accomplished authors, but never really played role-playing games. And to them, it was more about, okay, what does it mean to play a role? And where is the game about it? And of course, the people who already played RPGs went ahead very structured and with a very mechanical approach. So, okay, in RPG, we have skill trees, we have different job systems, we have different classes, we have experience points and all that Dungeons and Dragons background. So again, if you don't have this one, you think completely differently of what a role-playing game could actually mean. But yeah, I'm getting distracted. Google it. Okay. When I finally get my mouse back, then is PS1 Hagrid. Oh, yeah. I've seen that one. Yeah. So PS1 Hagrid is. You know what? I love this enhanced PS1 Hagrid, and it just makes it worse. PS1 Hagrid looks like the sheep in Minecraft. So the other thing that I was thinking of is 007 Golden Eye. Maybe we can see. Was it Golden Eye? Golden Eye. N64, because that's also the quality of textures you get there. So the textures had to do a lot of heavy lifting to stand in for the polygons that were possible at the time, and also therefore for the enemies. Okay, this is for the cheats. I think this is how you can see the developers there, but still the actual quality then was not that good. So again, this is a relatively representative screenshot of how I remember Nintendo 64 games. It was just, it felt like so empty, so sparse, because you had this huge swaths of scenery, and it was just this one very repetitive texture plastered over it. And of course, even with dynamic lighting and that sort of advanced trickery, there just was not much there. Anyway, good game, or so I've heard. Right. So I think because I've been rambling for over half an hour and not producing anything substantial anymore, I'm very glad that you are here with me, just listening to me ramble and looking at me Googling things. So yeah, I wouldn't be here, as I always say, without you. Every week I'm looking forward to doing the stream, and sometimes Connie can attest to, I fret over, oh my God, what should I stream? What is interesting to people? And good thing is somehow I always end up with something that I can stream and is hopefully not that uninteresting to you that you think you switch over to something else that is more interesting, like, I don't know, watching what is currently revolving in your microwave or something. So I'm very, very grateful for that. And since I wanted to say, since I'm tripping over my own tongue, and in this case, even tripping over my the wrong button in my Stream Deck, despite them being clearly labeled. I think I should call it a day because, yeah, I've spent 3 hours on the Autobahn today. It is always fun when an entire country like Germany is driving home from their skiing holidays and you just locked in a traffic jam that is spread over 20 kilometers. Anyway, I'm not complaining. I'm just glad that I'm here. Right. So should we rate someone, because this is a practice that I've been very bad at, and maybe I should rate more. So in case any of you are still up for some more goodness, let's see if there are any of people that I know present on Twitch. See, again, I'm having here problems. You can't see it, but the Twitch page is just not loading. And I have a hunch that it might be Firefox, or because I switched to 300% display size. But yeah, that's peculiar. Anyway, Fronta says, happy I was able to catch the end. Cheers. Yeah, again, thank you so much for dropping by, and all the best for defending your report for your thesis. And from then on, I hope you can finally have the actual time to work on the thing that you want to work at, but constantly your institution is pulling you away from it. Frank says, I'm done with social things like streams for today after this. Okay, in that case, Kirsty says, another nice stream under your belt. Oh, thank you so much. It's always, like I said, it's always nice with you. Fronta says, thanks, you will be invited, by the way, I'll let you know. Okay, good. I'm not sure if I can make it on all of the days next week, but I will try to be there. For those who don't know, I was coaching Fronta on his thesis, so yeah, I'm very much looking forward to see how this all turns out. You did it! Right, the only thing that I did not is apparently load Twitch on Firefox. And again, I'm not sure if it's Firefox, whether it's my computer, whether it's, I don't know, I have a Trojan somewhere, or I'm already part of a botnet and this is why things are acting up. I don't know. I hope it's not so. Apparently, the universe is against me raiding. Maybe other people are as well. And again, with only 4 viewers remaining, probably would also look a little bit sad. So in that case, I say thank you, everyone. Thank you for dropping by, for being active in the chat, for talking with me about old things that I enjoy. And hopefully even you found something in my very scatterbrained talk about chip music. All right, have a wonderful week, and hopefully I see you on Saturday. It is, yeah, Saturday. Take care. Bye-bye.